A brief synopsis of Christian 21's information and revelations for the Great Spiritual Awakening. Take it as you wish. By Leon George, Sinclair, for and on behalf of Christian 21. Hi guys, it's me, Rachel. I'm back in full effect, breaking it on down for small children with hearing issues to understand. It's been a while. I've had a lot on, as usual. I'm cool now, though. I have my leotard with me today, 'cause I'm going straight to the gym after narrating the synopsis. 3 hours and 14 minutes this time, which I'm gonna have to lose 14 minutes off the end, as Rumble only lets you have 3 hours per upload, regardless of file size. Listen, I'm still grappling with the simulation info myself. It's trippy fucking shit, I shit you not. Hopefully I'll do this justice. Christian has one more video, another long one, and we're doing that tomorrow afternoon. There will likely be one more synopsis, and the previous 5 or 6. In audio, because we lost our text-to-speech credits in cyberspace, maybe COVID killed our credits, who knows, but the went somewhere. Before we get started, I'd just like to take a few moments to reflect on this last 4+ years. It's been fascinating, annoying, aggravating, amazing, disastrous, yet always with the understanding that it is very temporary. There was literally only one way to understand how and why the temporary status was authentically applicable to this planet-wide situation of hyper-uncertainty on the world's political stage, and only one real answer to any conundrum that one could cast their mind at. The self-assembling truth algorithm sets off in the minds of those having found Christian 21's information and processed it. Now, with the relevant missing data retrieved by the memory of one man from a council estate in Portsmouth, a true picture, a glimpse at what was, will emerge. I think the sheer volume of data that Christian has presented, and the off-the-bat nature of all of his unexpected answers, is yet more proof forged in the fire of one's own cerebral reality. I am indebted to Christian for this knowledge. It's changed my life since I first saw him speak. It's become a reality for me over the last 4+ years, easily assimilated with an open mind. The information is accessible to all who chose to understand the absurdity of what we thought was our reality, woven on many levels by the Black Cube priests, who are the custodians, hooded and solemn beings, evil beyond words. They are portrayed in Stargate Atlantis as Aori, pronounced A or I. They controlled the most complex attributes to the simulation dome. It's not just a projection dome. It's not like going to the cinema and having a screen in front or above you. No, it's far more complex that the simulation dome is not just lights on the firmament, which is what most humans would assume given the term projection dome. Yet this is fourth-density technology designed by multidimensional demons handed to the custodians for payment for their amazing ways to torture, deceive, and subjugate the Earth human. The custodians, the Greys, the Draco, the Anunnaki, and the Nibiruns who remained firmly in the background, providing just one main and important aspect to the fakery. They are void technicians here in the parasitic partnership of Desiet. The Nibiruns were created by the Anunnaki, yet over many epochs they became far more sophisticated than their creators, the Anuk. The Anuk learned their lesson well in the creation of the Nibiruns. They fucked up. It may actually have been when they were all benevolent Anuk. I shall raise this point with Christian when I see him tomorrow on Holodeck 4. The reason that the sky is black is because the custodial technology that props up the projection dome array of facets is black plasma, also a technology, obviously as everything is, but this technology powered their illusion machine. It is siphoned off from their controlled worlds. This black plasma is created and surrounds all their occupied worlds, shown on Claudios maps as a black mass, exterior to their ice walls. It's their own technology which is perfect for use in powering their illusion projection of the vastness of space. After all, it's black. Christian, what you have done here in this realm is beyond words, brother. You have repeatedly nailed each topic, each question, each epoch, going right the way back to the start of creation. You have answered all questions immediately without faltering. You have explained all that has been asked, and still more as unasked at this time. You have done what you came to do all that time ago, and we are all so grateful for your efforts and determination. No one else could have done what you did. third-density society would have torn them to pieces, as would the dark matter field itself. But you held true for a recallable lifetime, knowing that one day in the future, your time of vindication would come. Well, that time is now, brother. I have purposefully explained several points in this synopsis in a few different ways, as some of the overlaid reality stuff is a bit hard to wrap your head around at first. LOL. Whilst the population are grappling with the notion of all the most loved and trusted celebs being replaced by body doubles, actors in advanced prosthetic masks, CGI, and blue-screen Warzone footage, the story unfolds like a poorly written Janet and John book, unfolding only for the sleepers, not the sheep. Sheep equals NPC. Previously, we thought that the NPC at least had some fraction of a human soul in them, divided into 70+ other mini-souls, or sachets of source creation, to join with parasitic tech to create a semi-sentient NPC human, to sway public opinion and want everything they are shown on TV. But NPCs, as in all of them, are all synthetic overlay beings. None of the NPCs will snap back together into one original soul for healing. No, they are all synthetic, and they make up 97% of the population. These groups will just disappear into the third density ether at the EMF. Their story will end right there. It only started the day they were born, this loop, and it will not continue past the first flash. They were not here prior to the occupation, and they will not be here after the end. The sleepers are the Terran human and ET souls that we came here to save, along with ourselves, and, importantly, most of the 200 million starseeds that came in to help. These are also in the sleeper category. Being still fully plugged into the third density matrix and unable to discern fiction from fact, their compass is well and truly distorted by the education system and the herd consensus reality. You see, the third density overlay is powered by the Earth human's own consciousness. Let me explain. Humans are very resourceful. Even in third density, they are an intelligent bunch of mindless fools, only because of the amnesia loop soul trap technology deleting each past life you have, from recall in the new vessel after birth. So the new human was required to unwittingly furnish his own conception of reality, understanding it through the accepted lens, be that tribal, political, scientific, or whatever the scenario is for the paradigm and era our epoch concerned. Technology is started each reset, very basically. They give you a trinket, a token gesture for your mind to absorb and ornate with your own perception. This is very important to understand, for it is you yourself who design your own collective consensus realities here in third density. You are a packet of data in the software of illusion, because they give you the idea to pursue a direction, an understanding, or an inventive step. This could be by apparent serendipity, or via a thought process you had in your hobby interests. It could be a mathematical formulae, or it could come in dream format. It could be a basic tool to simplify your industry's mechanization processes, or a new line of script in your programming code for the software company you work for. Whatever the occurrence, this idea, understanding, concept, vision, protocol, design, etc., apparently stemming from your own mind, is actually, in many cases, stemming from your own mind. It may be technology bestowed to slave kind by the parasitic chain of command, or it may be an idea you had, yet with the tailoring process manufactured in the dawn of this fake density's collective perception/S, or at least the dawn of each reset's latest narrative upgrade, where the blueprint of perception is cast in the foundries of the individual minds of the slave population. Back in the first occupation in the Paleolithic times, starting technology off with the most basic tech, or the forerunner of the most basic technology, was the only way for the parasites to install your reality between your ears so that you could create off the back of your new and very basic understandings. Had they gone about this in a different way, The powerful human brain, even when downgraded and downsized, would still be able to leap ahead in terms of invention, and then progress would have been too fast for the parasites to maintain, giving them the need to reset us all much faster. The reset period could have been reduced to just 500 years instead of 1,000 years. This would make their adrenochrome harvests much smaller, and it would not be the perfect hell that they had envisaged here for us. The parasites put a lot of thought into this occupation. They left no stone unturned in their research, and after 1666, when the Terran human Tata had evolved very quickly with the help from the giants in Realm 2, in 1666 the Great Fire of London was raging, apparently caused by a fire in Thomas Farriner's bakery on Pudding Lane. Fueled by strong east winds and a dry summer, the fire consumed thousands of wooden houses, 87 churches, and St. Paul's Cathedral, leaving 85% of London's population homeless. This is more lies. The fire wasn't started in a bakery. The fire was started by the Greys. French cabal spies working in collaboration with the Greys to keep everyone's focus on the ground, while the Greys were fighting the Tatarians in craft in the sky. Now we need to re-explain an aspect to this as it was not fully understood when I wrote about it previously. I also need to re-explain the simulation overlap as seen in water and with airplanes and birds in the sky that look paused. But first let's revisit Tartaria and the Great Fire of London. The Tartarians we are speaking of are in fact two distinct groups. The original Tata from the northeastern Gobi Desert, stemming from the line of Genghis Khan, and also, now this is where it ties into the 1666 Great Fire of London. Do you remember my post on 20th July 2024? Abridged extract from that post is here below. I added in here because it is relevant. Their name was originally the Tata of Mongolia, who inhabited the northeastern Gobi Desert in the 5th century AD. The text continues. There has been much debate where the Tatarians stemmed from. The original group was said to have stemmed from Ireland, and there is good evidence to suggest that this could be possible, but these two thought schools clash because the information above is from official records dating back to the 1800s, before Tartaria was deleted. But the Ireland story is a new concept by modern researchers. I personally go with the former because it was written before we were no longer allowed to know about Great Tartary. We now have a much better understanding about this, and as you will notice from the above abridged extract from my post a year ago, both thought schools on this topic are in fact true. The Atlantean version for the arrival of the Tartarian civilization on the world stage via Ireland is actually what happened. And it was this faction of Atlantean Irish Tatarians many years later in the future, in 1666, who were the ones in craft over the skies of London, in 1666 battling with the Greys. You see, it was the Genghis Khan line of Mongolian Tata people who founded the Mongolian Empire under their leader Genghis Khan. It was later discovered that the blood groups of these Mongolians were not actually of Mongolian descent. Only the line of Batu, the grandson of Genghis Khan, and Khan himself were of Mongolian descent, from the tribes inhabiting the Gobi all that time before. The majority of the Mongolian Empire was made up of Turks from the Ural-Altaic gene pool, who lost in battle to the original Mongolians and were absorbed into their Tata culture. The Tata people spread out all over the world, spearheaded by Genghis Khan and his ridiculously large family. They amassed skills, technology, and information. They invented science, and the Turkish and Muslim Tatas were the cutting edge of investigation in those days. Their skill and craftsmanship in all areas was bewildering and unmatched to this day. But that was not the level of technology utilized by the majority of Tatarians. They were highly skilled in all fields, yet they did not have access to what you here call UFOs, yet they did have free energy given to them by the giants in Realm 2. You see, these faction of Tatarians didn't live here in this density. They lived here on this same flat plain, and in London where the Tartarian architecture is all over the place. but they lived in higher densities, sixth plus density. They were, however, destroyed by the parasites over the skies of central London in 1666. These faction of Atlantean Irish Tatarians lost their battle with the Greys, who had set fire to London to keep people distracted, and in a low vibration/frequency, because the fear and trauma of losing, not just your home, but most of your town/city at the same time, keeps you in a very low vibration. Don't forget that negative feelings, emotions, thoughts, and actions vibrate at very low frequencies, whereas the feelings of excitement, love, and happiness are vibrating at extremely high frequencies. Now remember that higher density beings and high density situations, such as a sky battle, are by default high density. So now apply this to the Great Fire of London scenario. In your mind, the Greys had to cause misery and trauma so that the population of London were not in a positive state when the sky battle was going on. If people there below were happy as fuck and vibrating at a high frequency after all winning £1 million on the lottery, they may well be able to see the overlay bleed-through of the masked sky battle between the Greys and the Tatarians, which some people actually did see. It must have freaked them right out. No doubt a religious connotation would be the official proclamation of it ever got out in those days, such as we see in Fatima, Portugal in 1917. The other reason for flames was because it was also a sacrifice. The actual lighting of the Great Fire of London had something to do with the French, just waiting for clarification on that as we speak. So the Atlantean Irish Tatarian who lost the battle with the Greys all died and were reincarnated into this density, into the food chain as we all are. So the Tartarian architecture we see today all over the world has all been greatly reworked. You see, the thing with the Tartarian excellence is that what you are looking at now, although excellent beyond explanation, is a reworked masterpiece. Let me explain this with the cathedral model. All the ornate and fluted stonework in these buildings, the vaulted ceilings and elaborate ornamental fluted masonry, is not just ornamental masonry. Some of it is so high up that one can't possibly see it from the floor. These are all energy vortex creation nodes, points and areas where the ether is attracted to the nodal point under the church, temple, as is normal, but with a huge towering spires and mercury-filled orbs at the summit. You can still see these in many instances, still there up on what is now likely a weather vane sits above it. The energy is guided through and down into and around the temple church itself, swirling around the inner pillars and stonework, rippling off the fluted and ornate architecture. The organ would play music, but not religious rubbish, instead, tonal sequences that healed. Healing. Everything in or even near these locations, but even the organ has had its pipes changed to make a different sound, reversed into a negative contraption, as is everything the parasites did. It is in fact the same reworking that they did to these still beautiful fluted ornate masonry work. They actually reworked all of the internal sculpturing of masonry to have no positive effects and to move the energy about in the building in a less effective way, making any healing from this location as if any would be possible after the node itself has been dampened by a graveyard full of corpses and priests raping choir boys above the actual node itself, which was a lot more rife than you may assume, the temple that is now a church. The English word for church derives from the Scottish word kirk, but the Scottish word kirk goes back to an ancient Greek goddess named Mother Circe. In Rome, Mother Circe became Mother Circe. The Knights Templar took the worship of Mother Circe to Scotland when it spread there with Scottish Rite Freemasonry, and the name changed again to Mother Kirk, Scottish for church. The English called it Mother Church, so church comes from kirk, that comes from Circe, that comes from Circe. And in Greek mythology, Mother Circe was able to hypnotize people with her magic. She would bring them into her house and close the door, taking from them their mentality, cognition, and reasoning. That's all churches in every religion, all of them. That's what they are actually for, indoctrination. The word religion equals religion, or the following of satanic legions. They didn't create these masterpieces with hammers and chisels. They were built for a start in the higher light densities, grown with intention, love, empathy, and song, huge crystalline structures designed to help expedite the manifestation process and be used for positive reasons to heal the inhabitants of the lands of the worlds they are located in. These temples that are now churches and cathedrals are not exactly what you perceive them to be in this glutinous third density. You see temples such as Hagia Sophia, the Temple Church in London, and all the spired churches in all the villages of the realm, the quintessential English church for a wedding, and all the vast cathedrals that you see around the world. These old temples that are now all churches are all overlaid. An overlay is technology, another tool in the workshop of deceit. An overlay is programming mechanisms. These can be overlaid on people or places. In the case of churches and other ancient sites that now apparently have an old stone church with a graveyard surrounding it like an old moat, the stone and flint that you see and run your fingers over as you circle the structure, imagining how the people who lived there interacted with each other when it was built, what other buildings were in the area when it was constructed, what they were thinking when they built it, how they built it, when they built it. But interestingly here, with a church as a good example, because we often see really old churches with modern extensions and different materials to the original building, this poses yet another angle to the explanation posed here. But I'll come to that bit after, rather than confuse everyone. So, the old church down the end of your street, with a full-up graveyard most likely, was, before the occupation started, a crystalline healing temple. These were never used as religious sites because religion is a parasitic third density situation for control and subjugation. Only they were used for manifestation and healing. They were permanent beacons of a thriving realm, radiating nodal energy from the crystal grid system below it, and sitting right on top on the highest point of the ginormous crystal situated below what is now called the church altar. And it is called an altar because its true purpose has been altered by the parasites. Yet preoccupation, it would have radiated energetic magnificence in the form of electromagnetic waves that shot upwards from its tall crystalline spires, out into the ether, undulating motion of the already rippling sky, undulant magnetic flux of the simulation code's paint palette, looking like the aurora borealis, yet filling the entire sky with flowing and iridescent color, day and night. The positive energy emanating from these crystalline palaces was so strong in 5th+ density that even when the simulation was downgraded to a 3rd density simulation, the energy coming off these nodal points, especially when the location in question is a huge cathedral, could easily raise the frequency of the local population in 3rd density enough to be able to see through the bleed-through of the overlay, revealing what is actually there. Being a crystalline temple, it is still a magnificent crystalline temple in front of you, but the overlay, and your senses that have been manipulated and adjusted to observe what the parasites desired you to be preloaded with, for instance the senses of smell, sound, taste, and touch, have been programmed into you, brain schematic. Literally, it was the parasites who decided what you assume rough feels like. It was they who decided what you would consider to be smooth, even your pain barrier's tolerance levels. Similarly, it was they who decided what hot feels like, what cold feels like. They manipulated the senses in your fingertips and how those senses interact with your synopsis in the brain to create the actual reality that they wanted you to see, to portray a world image that is in accordance with their ideal situation. They decided how you are to view your paradigm, then they let you furnish that paradigm right from day one with what you needed, not what you didn't need or what they thought you needed, but what you needed, based on the interaction that you had with your new reality in its most basic forms: mud, stone, sand, twigs, clay. If you wanted to dig termites out of a termite nest, you had the technology of a tree branch to scrape away the dirt with. You didn't have a metal spade, a mattock, or a wooden trowel. You had a tree branch. They gave you the most basic item, concepts, and ideas, and they let you run with it. They couldn't give you any item, concept, or idea that would let your slave species get too far ahead. If you did, You could rebel if you ever found out what was happening to your fellow cave dwellers' children. You then created what you needed based on the obstacles you perceived with your 5.5 senses, the right tools to get the job done, but it was a limitation exercise to make third density work. Third density is very separate from the other densities. It's slowed down, sloth-like, a pre-basic simulation. That's why there has never been a third density before. Fossil fuel and illness, hate, spite, greed, pessimism, cynicism, jealousy, rage, anger, gluttony. Love and empathy can't survive in a world like this. The NPCs who can only mimic love and empathy vastly outnumber and swallow up the few true souls who adhere to the law of one without even knowing it. Eaten for breakfast they are, in the sea of insanity that we call life by the sharks we thought we knew and loved, respected and admired. There was no way out until now. Now, the church extension that we discussed above is a considerably more recent addition to the existing structure, is not part of the overlay, it's a different aspect to reality, and not part of the overlay itself because it was not there as part of the original crystalline structure of the ancient temple church. What the new building materials are and required for is to create, at first, dwelling spaces, then in the future, working spaces, storage space, farm buildings and warehouses, and manufacturing spaces. These are all angular, square-dead harmonic shells that do not allow the free flow of what is, to us here right now in 2025, unseen energy, not living and fully functioning live architecture such as we see in the past, especially in Tartaria. The building materials presented to you after the last reset ended, and the new population arose from the cloning and breeding centers around the world. Work was underway to clean up the devastation after the reset's carnage. The parasites had already decided that never again would they allow the slave human to actually have the audacity to rise up in rebellion against them, so they envisaged new, less technological construction methods that would guarantee that the human slaves never had the option to use free energy for any reason whatsoever in this reset. Because with free energy comes the plethora of applications for its use, including defense and, importantly, weaponry, as Tesla showed with his death ray tech developed in the 1920s, and, obviously, free energy is how the Tartarian buildings were sculpted and created. If you have anti-gravity tech, you can use this in defensive ways also, and the parasites didn't even want you having this technology. They were now so paranoid after the 1666 battle with the Tartarians, almost losing the realm to the Tartars because the Greys let them get a foothold, that they decided to really fuck the human slaves this last reset. They invented gods and Jesus, Muhammad, and all the other modern gods, with over 100 different forms of Christianity and over 275 separate religions to choose from, a planetary option for over 1 billion dishes with a diet of poison, and the childhood immunization program, fluoridated water and positions remedies, toxic air, meds, and big pharma, the legal system and your Testui KV, 1666 birth certificate bond, LGBTQ, and the disintegration of the family unit via the introduction of women's lib, birth control, meaning women could find extramarital sex without worrying about pregnancy, and, during the war, with the stress and uncertainty of husbands returning, many women had children with other men during this tumultuous time of conflict. The introduction of the sexualization of children at a young age that has now turned into the ideology that children can curl one out in a cat litter tray if they decide to identify as a fucking palm civet, facilitated by those who are supposed to care for those young minds in their supervision. These people will be arrested in a few days' time just before lockdown. The hymn sheet that they were all singing from since the beginning of the 1900s was only because of the terror you made them feel in 1666, and the fear of losing this realm, their biggest asset ever, was the driving force behind this strangeness that we see today in society and politics, all because the parasites were shitting themselves that we would come to understand spirituality and well-being, free energy and Satanism, or any one of the thousands of other crimes that they have been up to for the past few thousand years. The Great Awakening was inevitable. They knew it would happen, but they assumed it would be in about 2045, not 2012. But the problem for the parasites is that they are only fourth-density beings. They can't create, they can't go into the light realms and envisage a design to then manifest that design into physicality in the lower densities by the harmonics of sound and the intention of love and empathy. You see, this is why they hate you so much, because they can only build anything via the augmentation of physical matter, like we weld metal in third density. In fourth density, they have slightly better. Cold fusion is the preferred manufacturing technique to augment physical matter, but that is still manufacturing from blueprints created in non-light realms. Whereas in light realms, manufacturing is done in tonal harmonics, where the scaffolding of physicality is sung into existence, woven into the fabric of reality by the UHF, ultra-high frequencies, of the beings and consciousnesses that come from and reside in the echelons of pure perfection, outside the understandings of existence, where the multiplicity of benevolence knows no boundaries in the goal of a perfect wisdom-filled existence for all life. Physicality was forged in these light worlds. The dome of the forgotten gods reached a point in its technological evolution where it literally needed to find a way to create physical life, because everything had been achieved in light form except the sensations and emotions of physicality and the situations physical sensations provoke, such as physical intimacy. It's one thing being a benevolent shard of the source of creation itself, woven into the reality of carnality by the architects of all life. In the higher light realms, if you do not understand the feelings and emotions conjured in the mind of the soul, of the warmth of heat, the chill of dawn, the wind in your hair on the edge of a cliff, or the intimacy of touch with your twin flame, the sensual feelings, sensations, and emotions of massage, or going down on your missus after a night out in the pub, smashed on vodka, dancing all night to ABBA and the Bee Gees, when she's got cystitis, you know, when you put your tongue on one of them square 9-volt batteries that has the 2 terminals at the top, your tongue goes all fizzy and that. Well, you wouldn't know not to do that again unless you tried it, especially if she's ginger. It's like a fucking Duracell battery. No shit. So the parasites do not have the ability to envisage. They can only steal technology, and if it's positive tech, they will try every way possible to backwork it into a weapon or harmful tech. It's what they do. It's like a car mechanic fixes cars. He doesn't scrap the cars. He fixes them in a garage with the tools to complete that task. The parasites do not invent. They subvert and steal the envisaged plans for perfection and invert their usages, as we see in the temple-to-church example. So back to the church extension scenario I mentioned above before I digressed, as is normal. So the old churches, all of them, literally all of them, the same with mosques, the old ones such as Hagia Sophia, etc., were all crystal temples as mentioned previously. But with the augmentation of your 5.5 senses in the genetic evaluation stage of this reset's preferred hominid vessel, while the babies of the denizens of the previous reset emerged from the dumbs and sat on the orphan trains for repopulation as new human food, even their innate senses were manufactured by the scum-fuck-tard cunt parasites. So, bearing in mind that they created your physical vessel, the genetics you are wearing as we speak, in that design they needed you spiritually inept at every single level, hence gods for a start. Relinquishing your own physical connection to the source of all creation is the biggest crime against humanity, after SRA, or satanic ritual abuse. So, sorry it's hard to stay on track with this. The technological overlay that separates your discombobulated senses from what is actually in front of your eyes emanates from what you know of as the night sky. Yes, it's the stars in the sky, or at least some of them, that are projecting the overlay in front of you. Like a vast technological blanket thrown over all physical life in front of you, it masks what is really situated there. It is a rendered image, a highly advanced and solid 3D rendered image. Bricks and mortar are dead, hollow concepts, dead and heavyweight, not living and vibrant items such as a seashell hewn from the natural simulation parameters, but the dead and wet cement, sand, mortar, clay and mud, fabricated bricks, concrete. All these items dampen positive frequencies. Just you being depressed or upset dampens positive frequencies. Your mobile phone in your pocket dampens positive frequencies, let alone 4,000 dead people buried on an ancient and highly positive node, being mourned over for the duration, decomposing gases exuding from the cadaver over many, many years, as in a central graveyard. So the augmentation of your paradigm was done by extreme stealth, starting at the genetic level, your preordained senses, and also your expectations based off the back of these adulterated senses, contribute to your masked and perceived reality, because the bricks and mortar of the church extension are a separate installation of fakery and only available for the tactile sensation of touch via the auspice of the genetic manipulators of perceived reality. With free energy harnessed via the application and understandings of frequencies and harmonics, taught to the Tartarian craftsmen, or to a select few of them, by the giants. The giants and the Atlantean Irish Tartarian would have been in contact, because we were all in contact in the Atlantean era. Before the occupation started, we all knew each other very well. Back home was like a small village. Like we say, it's the same souls looping in here after death, as food, and also as the awakening team, starseeds, and also as the souled souls. It's always the same 500 million people, made up from all different species. But it's the same souls all these years later that are still looping here in third density, joined by 97% NPC. A large majority of these Terran human and ET souls, the poor sods, will be in birthing centers for sacrifice, and sex, loosh magic, and harvesting into adrenochrome. Think about it. 9 million plus kids per year go missing from the surface of this planet as it is, just from the surface, and that is without war and displacement. Per year, so by the time a child is 5 years old, another 45 million children have already been sacrificed, minimum of 45 million. Let that sink in. You see, people are so not ready for this, I shit you not. They are ill-equipped to deal with this when it comes. So these 500 million souls are looping here, some permanently in the food chain in birthing centers below ground, life after life, but some disabled surface dwellers are homeless in various countries, in third world countries dying young each loop, because if you are a Terran human or ET soul, then if you are not ending up in a bottle of adrenochrome, then you certainly will have a shit life. That's the entire point of the occupation in the first place, and with 97% NPCs to make the numbers up for many different reasons, the food source was always the Terran human and ET souls, but they can still torture an NPC and eat its organs, rape its children, and get adrenochrome from it. So this is why it's called the revealing of that which was previously obscured, aka the apocalypse. The revelations being revealed are pretty monumental already, and we haven't even got to the bad stuff yet. One revelation would be enough to end society and civil war overnight. Just the red shoes on their own would terminate modern life if the people knew anything other than hearsay about it. Some of us do know more than hearsay about it. These tend to be C21 followers. For people who actually understand, as in they actually went into cognitive thought mode and shut out MSM lies to conclude, based on this new evidence and how it fits together, it's pretty easy to work out when you are holding the jigsaw puzzle box's lid, but for some strange reason, most people shun this new info. They don't want to see the jigsaw box lid. Scared to death of a jigsaw box lid? I don't know why, but I am keen to understand it on a more person-specific basis. Because people I assumed would get this, don't. Possibilities, probabilities, and uncertainties, where the physical meets metaphysical and myth marries magic in the sub-beautification of the occult, it's the perfect subterfuge. For instance, your concept of the Dark Ages was nothing remotely similar to what actually transpired in that epoch being envisaged when these words hit your eardrums. To most, if not all, the term, the Dark Ages, conjures images of witches and full moons, wheat and barley being the #1 commodity, the concept of bog roll still 600 years away, but the Dark Ages were an epoch of floreation. The beauty of the mind was projected into physical reality when the Tatarians built those amazing structures, created as concepts in the cerebral schematics of flawless excellence, to obfuscate physical reality many years later in overlays and subterfuge, create confusion. For there will be a mindset to adopt each aspect on its own merits, and also the merits of these people's paradigms, the collective paradigms of his or her peers. So the Dark Ages were a time of repression, witches burnt at the stake for heresy, the forbidden teachings of the Cathars and the Great Heresy, with public executions for crimes against the state or crowns or church, Kirk, Circe, Circe, Mother Circe, who invited men to her house, stealing their cognition upon entry and their minds. The stamping out of anything remotely spiritual at its core was essential for the parasites, from the suppression of the main nodal emission points, with graveyards, altars, and masonry, right up to LGBTQ, the dead nature of society, the materials that it is constructed, both physically and energetically, the me culture, or living your best life. Me time. It's all Cabal's script to aid the illusion of child sacrifice. Sorry, but it is... What? It is not what it isn't, that's for sure. Your paradigm is the veneer of reality. Accept this by understanding it, by looking into it. When people say things like, well, no one really knows, well, if it was true, we would all know about it. What you think they want to annihilate the taxpayer? Are you batshit insane? The entire point is that you do not know fuck all about any aspect to this, save for what is shown to you. In plain sight, replace science, and back in the beginning in the first reset when Paleolithic man was apparently walking barefoot through the African savanna, don't forget that the souls in each vessel even back then were hoary with age. The Terran human was the latest hominid vessel straight off the production line in the laboratories of the Octoon, the genetic masters of the cube, the 5 masters who manipulate DNA for source itself. So these now, Terran humans, were used to a technological supremacy that made lighting fires with bits of wood rather mundane, for a Terran was used to opening portals with its mind, bilocating at will, and levitation. Yet then, after the enslavement started and the 3rd density vessel was created, after a quick mind wipe before the Terran soul enters the new vessel being born, it knows nothing whatsoever. It's forgot who it is, who it was, where it came from, who its family are, why it's here. It's even forgotten how to create, and this is essential back then at the first stirrings of a new population's reinception, so that we can unwittingly create the reality that the parasites wanted us trapped inside. They do the same thing each reset, but the first time was important. They had to start us all off in fig leaf garments and loincloths, the most basic tools, food and shelter. They may show you how to shape a wooden cup from a dead branch with a flint napper, but they will not yet show you how to make a cup from the clay beneath the soil below your feet. They can do that. You must evolve into that realization at your own slowest possible speed. It's things like this which you unknowingly use to program your paradigm with. You see, once you can hollow a cup shape with a flint nap from a dead wooden branch, you will go on to ponder what else you could use this flint knife nap to create. You could fashion an axe with this napper. At the head, you could be cutting down trees and building villages in no time. You could invent a bow and arrow in the wheel off the back of a small flint nap, given enough time. And that's the issue. You must always have the most basic start-off materials and concepts, because this is how you create your own reality, because your consciousness is aware of the limitations faced with whatever it is in question. Say, creating the actual axe head. It takes time and skill, diligence, and accuracy. I have personally tried to make a flint axe head with the napping technique. It's a whole lot harder than you may assume, so the time to perfect the skill and the limitations of invention due to available time, food and maintaining food supplies, daylight cycles, All these things must be taken into consideration subconsciously, restricting the imagination, limiting its natural path due to essentials such as housing and food issues, plus many more person-related considerations. It is this actual mechanism itself that defines the parameters of your physical reality. It is this limitation process, in all areas and in all fields, that restrains the simulational response to your consciousness understanding of your actual paradigm. It is then this actual understanding that ordains the physical matter within your world. Each and everyone shares the same consensus reality. It varies from culture to culture, but it's basically the same. I.e., we live on a spinning ball 2/3 the way out of an average spiral galaxy, and that we are trying to colonize other planets before our sun goes supernova in 500 million years' time. It's a web of deceit ordained by your actual expectations and experience whilst traversing this cumbersomely time-stretched density you call home. None of that space rubbish is remotely true. It's not even possible, let alone feasible, let alone true. So when you are computing the likelihood of intelligent life in the universe, maybe you are using the Drake equation. The Drake equation, formulated by astronomer Frank Drake in 1961, is a probabilistic argument to estimate the number of communicative extraterrestrial civilizations in the Milky Way galaxy, but it is more of a tool for scientific dialogue than a precise calculation. The equation multiplies several factors, including the rate of star formation, the fraction of stars with planets, the number of habitable planets per system, the fraction of those planets that develop life, the fraction of life that becomes intelligent, the fraction of intelligent civilizations that develop communication, and the average lifetime of such civilizations. Because most of these factors are unknown and highly conjectural, the equation is not used to draw firm conclusions, but rather to organize scientific thinking about the possibility of extraterrestrial intelligence and to stimulate research in the field. All the presumptions in the above paragraph are all based completely on fiction. The Milky Way is a projection, the stars are all Skynet 1, and the fake holographic projections of overlays in third density, and a Draco security system. The sun isn't a ball of gas, and the moon isn't a spinning rock. Planets, in the sense that you understand them from your education systems, simply do not exist in the capacity that you expect them to. So all determined thought, research, or any endeavor to further this apparent understanding is utterly pointless, as shown to us in the scene in Gulliver's Travels, where the crazy old man is trying to extract sunlight from cucumbers, as if it's a serious possibility. This is like people who work for the NHS, trying to heal people with poison, and actually believing it may help. It's like giving a chid a lollipop stick made from asbestos. That was a real thing in the late 19th century, so when you are hypothesizing about the vastness of space or the angular momentum of a large rotating planet, using Doppler shift to ascertain if the spinning planet is going away from you or coming towards you, the mental imagery that you have in your mind for this is all built on complete lies. But your own mind furnished the cerebral environment with that concept or image, and they must have this happen for their shitty third-density matrix to work. It's like getting trapped in the Hall of Mirrors at a fair ground, or an unfair ground. Habitable space is big, but it's not vast. It's a cubed situation. Physical life can only exist in a simulated cube, otherwise you will always exist in light form only, and, as we are now aware thanks to Christian 21, that firstly, intelligence is light-based. Intelligence is harmonic frequencies, sung into existence by your celestial Father, and then woven into existence in the ether of your home world by your celestial Mother. You then go on to other light realms to learn certain attributes and understandings before being born, incarnate in a physical vessel by the same two people who sung your harmonics into existence. This is the reason that no one has grandparents back home in the higher densities. They are not a thing back home, only here in third density, because Because, say, for instance, my celestial mother and father sung and wove me into existence before physicality was even invented. Back then it was just light realms. But let me quickly finish off explaining the grandparent thing before I go off on one as usual, digressing like fuck. So, my cosmic parents sung and wove my soul into existence in exactly the same way that you were created. Previously, we thought that your soul was a creation of Source, but no, in a way, yes, this is true, because your cosmic parents, and you, are a creation of Source made possible by the auspices of the empathic love granted to you by the Source of all creation, of benevolent and unfaltering love. And then the physical act of copulation creates the vessel for the new soul to enter when the time is right, and that could be many millions of years between creation and first physical incarnation, because the soul must travel first through a series of light realms, picking up experience and knowledge before taking a species with a physical vessel, being the same species as the mother and father who sung in the chords of existence of your very being through the light realms' highly energetic ethers. So, then, I created my own son's soul in the same way with my twin flame, and so you see that my son will do the same with his twin flame. Together they will create the soul of their children-to-be, in the same way, and after they will create, through the union of love and empathy, the vessel for their offspring, negating grandparents. So where was I? Light realms. Before I forget, light realms are the nuts and bolts of all reality. In the higher densities, the schematics of physicality are ordained from inside huge crystalline temples. Depending on the action and result required, 1 to 30 plus people can be gathered around the main nodal access point, called an altar here in third density. Their concentration and tactile response when touching the crystalline array, the most powerful point in the temple, with articulate intention, love and empathy, intention and desire, often with your twin flame standing behind you with her hands on your spine, or vice versa, boosting the intention in the amplification of the desire to manifest a creation, a harmonic frequency that can be sustained and amplified greatly by the temple crystalline structure. Don't forget the entire temple will be crystalline in material, and this edifice will also have been sung into existence. The amplified harmonics will be highly complex in nature and represent entire multidimensional architectural or harmonic blueprints. In real time, creation goes from the meditative thought stage to conclusion to instantaneous manifestation as a complete and physical reality, grown, as it were, through sound, and not just a working concept, but a complex physical structures and craft and buildings in moments. Craft are built the same way, UFOs they are called here, vast structures sung into existence with purpose and intent to strive towards good and evolve as one to a higher density. This is what we mean when we say that even the military back home are all families, all soul family members working together. Who better to have your back than the people who created you and who you created? It's ideal. Death is fake. As we discussed previously, death is a technology to format your recently devesseled soul. After death each loop here, so back home you have never died before, not ever. Well, your vessel will naturally age, but very slowly indeed. A normal life cycle back home is about 500 Earth years, but we extend this to 20,000 plus years with EMF technology being the tech that you would associate with a medbed, except ours are far better. Medbeds are 3rd density, 12th density Syrian EMF tech is next level and makes a medbed look like a fucking tan stand drawn in a child's comic book. Everything is first created in the higher densities and then brought into the lower frequencies, as Christian explained about the Anunnaki building the pyramids back in 4th density, and then manifesting them here in the heavier 3rd density, where they here become a physical reality existing within that simulation's framework and understood by you being one of the population of whatever density in question, to be observed by you and your peers how it actually is. That's not what has happened here in 3rd density. The overlays and distortion warp your perception, and in many cases, you are not looking at what you assume. Even when you can cut chunks off of it and powder it into dust, it's all a very advanced holographic projection that you are operating within. Always is the most basic items in technology, is how they start you off after a reset. It guides your expectations and understandings of the world you live in. Otherwise, you would be opening portals in no time if someone showed you how to use the natural Earth's grid and crystal system, which has been severely suppressed over each reset, to shoehorn in third density itself. If they showed you this at the beginning of a reset and taught you spirituality and well-being, i.e. the law of one, then you would have a perfect lifestyle and a very clean planet, which is so not what they want whatsoever, the idea of positivity, love, happiness, and helping others. In a complete anathema to the parasites, all of them, which is why the need for the overlays in Antarctica and elsewhere, which, for the record, again, is not the ice wall or ice ring that surrounds your realm. Antarctica is actually located at the North Pole, and it is here, at what you understand to be the North Pole, that you are seeing these videos by Cybervisions, and the other page I forget the name of. But Cybervisions itself is a clever trick, same subterfuge used in reverse. You see, Cybervisions is originally a page that uploaded crude computer animation, albeit very basic amateur animation, yet the awake will see the link here. The sheep will research Cybervisions and see they are, he, she, is an animation page, and then snap into the mode of, well look, it's all AI, obviously, being yet another filter, because only the people who have personally researched and thought about Christian 21's information and revelations for prolonged periods would even see through this filter. So, to clarify once again, the terrain that is being discussed as Antarctica is actually located at Mount Meru. Mount Meru, which is the very center of the planet, and also the very center of the Great Dome itself. This location is key to the regulation of energy throughout all the Great Dome, and also the higher realms. And this location is also the projection equipment for the third density dome of deceit. The technology at Mount Meru is next level as fuck. It was responsible for projecting Halley's Comet, all the other visible comets, the Milky Way, plus many other aerial phenomena in the local galactic arena. Cybervisions has authentic footage of hidden locations. These locations are not parasitic creations, and the parasites could never go there as the frequencies and vibration of these nodal areas would kill them. Literally, resplendent with crystal palaces and high vibrational architecture, is such a high frequency that the parasites would die if they came near the place, let alone entered a palace such as this. That's why they erected large gold statues of their ancestors around these sacred sites. Now think about kryptonite. It's green, and it is highly toxic for Clark Kent, aka Superman. This is in plain sight, showing you in a way that you would never understand, a green crystal being harmful in somewhat way. To a human vessel in a fictitious setting, Superman was from a different planet, Krypton, but his appearance was human, and that's all they need for in plain sight for the Goyim, useless eaters. I'm talking about the crystalline palaces and domed buildings, not the demonic-looking locations with statues of monsters. You will notice that Mount Meru is the silhouetted outline of the logo of Northern Rock and also Toblerone chocolate, along with several other multinational companies. They are all in on it. They all adopt the same symbolism and terminology, same practices and same beliefs, same determination to fulfill their goals, being your demise and permanent repetitive downfall, where each physical life you would have been a miserable, downtrodden existence, purposely created to make you as ill and miserable as possible. The parasites could not enter these palaces. The high frequencies of these crystal nodal points was so excessive for their fourth density vessels 9, such as us traveling outside the ice wall into a higher density, that it would kill a parasite, just like for us coming in here to help from the higher densities. If we came in here in our normal vessels, we would get sick very quickly, so they merely covered them in an overlay. The ice in these seemingly excavated locations has not been melted to allow excavation. The reason you can see it now in this apparently excavated state is because the overlays are fracturing, causing visual perception to see what is actually there, as opposed to the camouflage, covering the terrain with an overlay to obscure its physicality, masking it from vision and the human visual eye perceptual range. With the positivity now here in this realm, especially by motherships, and the giants in Realm 2, well, the giants are the most excited of all other species, because as we said a few times already, the giants swore an oath in Lemuria at the inception on the Terran humans, who were literally being seeded in this realm, Realm 2 back, then, before the occupation started and the fake ice wall and firmament went up, that same day, to protect these beings, these new and highly benevolent creations of physical and spiritual mastery that contain the ancient souls of the lands of the forgotten humans. The human story is nothing what you have been taught anywhere in any school, college, or university, or by any mystic, because to even allow yourself to consider this is utter taboo in every possible situation on the planet, for very good and very obvious reasons. You are not meant to know the truth because they know that you will rebel en masse, and they can't control that. They can only annihilate you again if they think that you might rebel in a reset, until the GAA was formed and this trust the plan was hatched. Why would they want you to live on a clean planet when they are busy trying to destroy it, and you along with it? So, to let you experience and define your own world, they give you certain items, certain ideas to start with, and create your own worldview from this limited piecemeal toolbox of experience and understanding. You can apply this to any aspect of your existence, from education to agriculture, law to finance, construction to physics, etc., etc., etc. It is your own experience-based understandings, the education system, and your societal structure that is mostly pre-planned for you and erected by you. Immediately after each reset, the Freemasons seem to be the only survivors of the reset, not coincidentally, and it will only be the 33rd degree plus levels who are spared by agreement to help set up the new world and help with the repopulation agenda. Their lives after this time will be affluent and well looked after. They will be needed to carry on the sacrificing on a regular basis and help cover up any unfortunate discoveries such as an odd-looking machines, UPAs, or out-of-place artifacts in the realms of forbidden archaeology, such as a laptop found in deep strata in 1,000 years' time when they are just working out bog roll again. If we were to be reset again, which we are not, the Freemasons in the newly set up newspaper media will be in control and be fully aware of what they are supposed to be doing and saying to the new mind-wiped populations of the plane. They will have a common hymn sheet to sing from. There will be much already in place regarding the new schematic for religion, energy, and its distribution, education, the backstory on why there are not many adults compared to children, the path that the sciences will take unfolding into the future, the mechanization of industry, and when they plan to reinsert this understanding into the collective mindsets of the populations. Don't forget this is always a very, very slow process. Farming was done with plows for a very long time, when they could have fast-tracked this simple technology if they wanted to, same as everything else. But for your reality to unfold in a rudimentary yet undulating way, crystallizing the robust harmonic framework, the actual scaffolding of third-density physical experience of the simulation's functioning code, reflected out of the needs of the new hominid implanted as a harvestable crop, your own mindset must initiate and categorize that understanding, be that a physical object, a vision, or an idea, progressively speaking, giving that understanding clarity and a defined and mostly finite tangibility, creating its physicality in front of your eyes, ears, nose, mouth. In third density, you have only 5 main senses. In fifth, plus you obviously have 6 fully functioning senses. So the parasitic glue that holds this all together after each reset is the Freemasons. Prior to the last reset, this was the job of the Druids. The Druids were not a bunch of Lord of the Rings characters set up to hold ancient wisdom and further humanity with lost Atlantean knowledge or whatever they proclaim. No chance. The Druids were the sellouts before this Freemasonic bunch, and possibly the one before that. It was the Druid sect that sacrificed children at Stonehenge, opening up a demonic portal above it for louche-feeding frenzies back in the day. The sorcerers were all Druids, spellcasting and summoning demons to aid their personal furtherment, and the furtherment of what we now, today call the Cabal, or Deep State, and the warring families who make up the bloodline lineages. Just back then, it had had another face and another name. When you have a theater production or a festival such as Glastonbury, afterwards there is a lot of mess. The stage needs taking down and the whole area needs a good tidy-up, a makeover and some new buildings to deliver the needs of the population that are only a year or two away from surfacing, quite literally because they are all underground in bums at this point still. The rubble and carcasses must be cleared away up on the surface, and the railway system uncovered. As much of it was covered in several meters of mud at the end of a reset, and they would need this railway track to transport the new children around the realm to different areas/cities from their respective bases below ground. The local adult population who had been mind-wiped with EMF tech similar to the neuralizer on the movie MIB would have been given a narrative of a natural disaster, comet, or maybe even the wrath of God, as an explanation for the apparent destruction, but the locals allowed to live and help repopulate the realm, who were not Freemasons, would have known nothing whatsoever of the true reality of what happened to their world. Nothing whatsoever. They had no memories of the events that unfolded just weeks and years prior. For these helpful souls, the mind wipe worked. At least it spared them the lunatic asylums, so they had no option but to roll with the narrative. It's all they knew. It was their new normal. After all, the new narrative was being spoken by posh men in top hats and suits, wealthy men who are helping restore order to the chaos, plus an education system and much-needed medications, to later become a healthcare system and university-structured system of information for the masses. A new understanding pioneered by the world's elite thinkers, financed by the world's elite bankers, explored by the world's most intrepid elite explorers. Every single one of them was a 33rd-degree Freemason who killed and raped children. It's that simple. Your lives are built on the blood and suffering of your planet's most precious members. Children. Period. But where was I? Defining your reality yourselves from the perceived necessity orchestrated by the puppet masters, they give you a something, let's just say it's an flint axe for argument's sake, realizing that when you were installed in here after being killed, or by just being here when the occupation started, you had, compared to here right now, a bewildering level of technology. There were no roads. You used portals to travel. Portals are instantaneous intradimensional travel access points that you use to open with your mind. You didn't have a car, a road, or keys to start the car that you didn't have with, but anyone actually following Christian's information will already be well aware of this. Crossing a river with no bridge, your consciousness is aware of the limitations, yet it will race away at finding a solution to the problem, a solution that doesn't involve getting wet, because the Taran human brain, which your brain in this current life, a cheap downsized replica, was created from, was the most powerful brain ever created, but the parasites shrank it and closed lots of areas off, so that you are merely just a thick pleb here in this life now. But the Taran brain was literally the latest spiritual cum computational machine ever created. Its capabilities exceed all other hominid vessels' capabilities in all known species. This is why Christian says that you are more special than you know. That's why they show you Marvel characters and the X-Men, Superman, etc., because they have to show you they could never do these amazing things because they have no love and empathy, therefore are unable to travel into the higher densities and acquire these spiritual gifts. But they must show you reality, so you view reality through the lens of fiction. The technology that you yourself reading this was used to operating with your mind, interfacing with the upgraded ether, and the software of the law of one's formula for success, as it was you who actually were the Tartarian architects who built the amazing edifices that defy gravity. Well, everything defies gravity because gravity doesn't exist, as discussed previously a billion times, but to explain this in English I used that fake word just saying, So how do they use your own consciousness to power the reality to be experienced by all? By introducing items, technology, in its most simplistic forms, and via the power structure of the realm. In this case, here it is, apparently for the most part seen as democratic, but this matters not. It's third density itself that is under scrutiny here. Let's study just two items, a flint axe and your laptop, PC, or handheld device. A flint axe is arguably the most basic item that you might be able to fabricate from your surroundings, or a way of cutting wood to build with, and wood to burn in a fire. Assuming you were at that level of development, and many people here don't, even seem to be at that level yet, especially in the UK. But I digress. Very basic, such as a flint tool, or the process to manufacture a flint axe, or arrowhead, wasn't discovered by early man, because early man isn't what you assumed or were taught. As we discussed many times already, the Paleolithic period was simply the trial phase of finding the best and most adaptable, being able to produce the best quality of adrenochrome from the smallest vessel that was intelligent enough to be able to communicate with others in its societal demographic, using vocal language as opposed to telepathy, as normal beings use, well enough to relay complex descriptions, orders to architects and military strategists, farmers, later on town planners, and early aerospace companies. Sorry I digressed again. A flint axe and the process of making one worthy of Stone Age man's daily multi-purpose usage was not something we learned through necessity. No, it was presented to the hominid of choice, or all of the different groups coexisting in different geographical locations, on all continents, in the hot zones, and in the more temperate locations, always testing and recording every single thing, such as if you freeze a child almost to death, will it produce better adrenochrome? So the sadistic bastards would try it. Maybe you could get a few bucks more out of a half-frozen child after you have beaten it almost to death, flayed its skin off after freezing it first. If that was producing just one more drip of adrenochrome per child, then the parasites would all start adopting that form of torture. It's a way of life for them, and in third density, it was the most lucrative business on the face of the plane. For at least 300,000 years, let that sink in, it took them that long to gain friendship with the 65 other worlds that they enslaved in order to obtain this world here, Earth. Anagram, heart, being the heart of Gateway 10. You remember the remote tribal interactions and myth spoken through generations as recorded history, such as the Dogon tribe of former French Sudan in West Africa. Emma Yah descended from the sky into the lake and started to teach the Dogon tribe all of life's secrets, farming, making bread, building houses. It's the same the world over. Gods came and helped kickstart the tribe or civilization with the promise of return. Well, they never left. These fisher gods that started the Merovingian dynasty pre-Dark Ages were just a bunch of parasitic ET who were tasked with the inception and guidance of this new trial tribe. That is why there are so many gods, like a franchise of research teams, different ET groups who were deemed suitable for research guidance and DNA manipulation, were tasked with setting up their version of the farm with their own pursuit, intentions, and versions of what the perfect adrenochrome-producing mammal will be. To make a flint axe is actually quite difficult. Flint knapping is a lot harder than it looks, but clearly you mastered it in the distant past quite well indeed. Go to a museum to see the facts on this, or just Google it. But why not just teach you how to smelt metal ore? Start you off on a sensible footing to build a civilization with? Would make sense, wouldn't it? And instead of waiting till the fake yet real Roswell crash until they gave you the printed circuit board, why didn't they just teach you these skills way back then, so that your species could get ahead as soon as possible? Wouldn't a benevolent God, I will never write a capital G for that word equals DOG spelt backwards, you see, if you actually think about the information, it's fucking obvious. Another weapon in their extensive arsenal against you was your senses. When they created this third density vessel out of the DNA-manipulated strands of DNA that they took from the dead cadavers here after the flooding and freezing of the realm, when they created the ice wall of Antarctica, they used this 9-strand DNA and removed 7 of the strands, leaving just 2. They downsized the vessel considerable each reset, and this is where the strange creatures of myth and magic come from. You remember seeing blemmies and panati in fairy tale books? Also, fellows with two heads and others with their legs on back to front? Others with one central eye. Well, these were also genetic testing from that epoch. They were splicing all kinds of DNA together on their Mars colony. Even then, there were no humans on Mars at that time. All the Martians had been wiped out, their souls transported next door, to here, to reincarnate mind-wiped into the Earth food chain, and the parasites set up camp there, being the closest planet to Earth. Mars was essential for them to start making genetic hybrids, and what you could only describe as orc armies, hideous creatures similar to what you might see in films such as Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. DNA-manipulated monsters, intelligent killing machines void of any empathy or sympathy. They are to terrify and kill, torture and destroy. Only, they range in height from 14 foot to 22 feet tall, sometimes larger. They are muscular, fast and agile, and share a hive mind as creations of destruction. Expendable. Not that they ever loose one. These beasts can run 70 miles per hour over rough terrain and bilocate at will, so you are unlikely to kill even one, let alone 10,000 of them. They butcher families in the street at a reset, torturing them in the process openly in places that the remaining public can see. This obviously creates extreme terror in the soon-to-be tortured victims, trying in vain to hide or get away. Therefore, although the adrenochrome from people over the age of 16 is less potent, it's still better than nothing, and it makes their organs taste better, so they say. Sorry, I well digressed again there. Actually, let me quickly digress again to explain the Minotaur situation we previously thought, going from Christian's memory, that the custodians were Minotaur-looking motherfuckers. But that was in error. The Minotaur beasts were killing creations of the custodians, armies of them, terrifying-looking sadistic monsters, created to terrify, installing abject terror in the victims before flaying alive for adrenochrome. They were emotionless beasts who could only kill and butcher. The custodians were a beautiful species originally. They had chiseled facial features and were beautiful in appearance, with intentions to match, yet they were all but a handful, turned dark and started sacrificing children. Their look then changed, as the beauty of the soul that creates the facial features. It's the same with negativity, sunken and black eyes, the light gone from the soul and darkness set in. There are a few still alive, good ones who helped the GAA take down their relatives. They too will be allowed to live out this loop in isolation, as will the handful of Anunnaki who helped betray their species on behalf of good. They will die naturally and reincarnate into a new species, same as the Anunnaki. The custodians will be no more. The damage and misery they collectively caused with the rest of the parasites is too disturbing to come back from. Sorry, where was I before? Your sense is, when they manipulated the DNA of the 9th density Terran human to make the blueprint for the vessel that you are wearing right now, they pre-programmed the senses. This is deep as fuck, and it's taken me all of today and most of the last 2 days to even wrap my head around it to be able to explain it here and now. I covered some of this above, the way they guide our reality from the start, the way tech is introduced to us, the way we are to view our collective paradigms, and how we are to expect to augment our realities in daily linear time, bricks and mortar for the last 300-ish years, or since towards the end of the previous reset, and the perception we are to assume and adopt from the subtle programming we receive, programming that we are oblivious to. Well, that's not all that they did in terms of shaping our perception. They pre-programmed, on the genetic level, our understanding of what rough is, what smooth is, what many basic understandings actually are, so that when you see and encounter ancient buildings and modern buildings, but the more modern buildings are in fact just advanced holographic projections. But in the simulation, it is indeed erected with bricks and mortar, but the distinction here is that it is nodal overlays on all the old churches, temples, cathedrals, and ancient sites, whereas the new build estates that pop up in the UK in just a few months, these are not overlays. These are just created buildings as you might see in the video game Minecraft, but the nodal overlays are literally overlays of frequency and vibration to distort what is being viewed, and the positive energy emanating from below, this combined with your altered senses and the dampening of the Earth's grid that the nodal overlay is there to cover and also dampen, all of these things work together to adjust your perception of what is being viewed in front of you. You see, the reality is that there are many hundreds of thousands of nodes all over the planet, some large, some small, and some are fucking huge. London itself is one such huge node, and most likely every massive city is also a large node in all countries. The nodes are dotted along a natural, nothing is, but let's just call it natural for now. Normally, these nodes would have a crystalline palace, for want of a better word, situated upon the surface over the node itself, but it was not to be lived in. It was merely for healing and manifestation, the creation of positive changes in the simulation ether. A matrix would only be used by parasites. A matrix is demonic, used for enslavement. It's like a high-tech labyrinth AI program. But after the Greys almost lost this realm to the faction of Atlantean Irish Tartarians we discussed earlier, battling in the sky in the Great Fire of London, the Draco and Custodians had to stop fighting each other and come back here because the Greys had let it go to pot in their absence, where the Atlantean Irish Tartarians were winning in the war for the power grid. You see, there is much more important aspects to what you call here ley lines. Yes, these are somewhat created by the minute electromagnetic vibration and frequency of the human vessels that traverses a path or track on the ground, such as the fabled Silk Road that linked China and the Far East to Portugal and beyond, covering great areas of Europe with one continuous path for the trade of silks and spices, dates and figs, and all sorts of trade caravans carrying goods between countries. Many of the Spanish bars in Las Alpujarra, Andalusia, Spain, are there because of the Silk Road and its regular traders, and indeed the Spanish tapa, or top cover, being a small dish of food, bread and cheese, or a meat stew placed over the opening on the glass of beer, whatever the bar has in the lata, usually, mostly a cooked sausage, or now near the coasts, the tapa has turned into a lifestyle. You see, the tapa was created because of the Silk Road trade route a few hundred years ago, because at every stop along the trade route, certainly in Spain if nowhere else, the bar was the central hub of the mountain villages, being a meeting point and somewhere to buy provisions, because this area had only one main road track, and the area covers 70,000 square miles. The bar owners would give the caravan trader a free glass of beer or a couple of shots of the local spirit. But the problem was that after a few hours and 10-plus stopping points to trade in wares and spices, the caravan traders were getting well smashed on the free alcohol in the sweltering Spanish heat. So, the Spanish bar owners who well understood the area, the social interaction between the traders and the heat of the Spanish summer, and decided to give the traders a free mini-meal with every drink. This would line their stomachs and prevent them from becoming incapacitated and unable to complete the deliveries for that day, having a knock-on effect over a few months, with the end result being that the furthest and most isolated bars and outposts were receiving deliveries weeks or even months late. Interestingly, this area of Spain, close to the Tartarian palace of the Alhambra de Granada, a Moorish edifice apparently according to the mainstream narrative, but don't forget that history had to be a fabricated lie to keep you mind and attention away from Tartaria and the great civilization that it became. So we now know that the Moors were Tartarian. They were Turks from the Ural-Altek gene pool after the armies of Genghis Khan and his grandson Batu assimilated the Turks into their expanding civilization. Also, very interestingly, the southern area of Spain, below Madrid to the southern coast, Granada in particular, but also some villages in the mountains, became very wealthy indeed because of the color purple. Strangely, off the coast of southern Spain has a very unique sea crustacean. I can't remember if it is a crustacean or a type of rock, but it was used to make the purple dye for clothing. The color purple is a royal color, only because it is a demonic spectrum of light used as one of the colors of choice for a demon hosted by a physical member of a royal family. purple was very hard to manufacture, washing out after a few cleans, but the Granada dye makers, Tartarian, nailed it. Granada was then the only place in the world that you could buy the long-lasting purple pigment, and because royals wanted it urgently, it became very expensive. But that's not all, because in the Spanish Alpujarra, there is a small village called Berchalizi, and this village sits at an altitude that is perfect for the silkworm to breed and create silk. And, as we are all very aware, silk is the preferred material of the higher social classes. Silk is a natural material, therefore it retains frequency the same as cotton fiber, hemp, and bamboo, etc. So to be able to manufacture a long-lasting purple fabric made of silk is what put Granada in Spain truly on the world map in the last half of the last reset. Interestingly, the reset prior to the last, everyone would have known how to make a long-lasting pigment for the color purple, but the reset wiped all knowledge of these skills from the face of the plane. Other ways to dampen benevolent frequencies are square buildings, mobile phone signals and communications towers, radar towers, high-voltage power cables and networks, toxic food and water, fluoride, medications, debt, famine, pestilence, fear, discomfort. Sorry, I digressed again. I was talking about the Silk Road and ley lines. So, ley lines and the Earth's natural grid system are two separate instances, one with minimal impact, the other with a profound impact and also a profound purpose, blurred into one for confusion and misunderstanding so that reality remains hidden for all time, until now, that is, because the plane, the realm, the planet, call it what you will, the same as all planets, which are all flat planes. None are balls that spin in space because space is not what they told you it was, not even similar. Planets are all flat planes contained within a cube. Always it is this way, as life itself cannot exist without this containment cloistered away from the powerful magnetic winds of the dark matter field. Only here can physical life even be a concept. Because of the magnetic flux of the dark matter field, even a molecule would be torn into pieces immediately. So a physical containment cube is created, sung into physicality from the higher densities, in most cases by members of the Lyran lineage, being the oldest lineage in the universe, and therefore it was they who created this technique. Seeing as people don't die back home, it's them still doing it, and therefore residing normally in the higher densities of 12th to 15th. The Lyrans were the first to take a physical vessel, and are called Lyrans or Lyrians, because they were in the first instance a Type 1 Lyran, was feline in appearance, standing roughly 14 feet tall, with elongated arms and legs. The Lyran were powerful and athletic beings. With the passage of non-linear time, LOL, they evolved to be more human-looking. The giants are all of Lyran lineage. They have no feline features, but their souls were originating in the Lyran lineage, ancient beings who evolved with the desire to be giants in a loop or three. The giants are collectively the most trusted beings in creation. Their vibration and frequency is so high and so powerful, if a single Anakim stepped foot into Realm 3, their vibration would split all of the overlays in one go, the overlays being parasitic and relying on a permanent low frequencies, and the giants vibrating like motherfuckers at UHF. And considering their size, their toroidal field, or biofield, will extend great distance if they are 200 meters tall. You can see what would transpire, the fracturing of overlays and the appearance of glimpses of reality on a mass scale. The White Hats don't want this to happen. It's too soon. They are staging the fear and gauging your response to the point of peak fear. Then they will roll out the next scare event, right up until the FAI into Ascension. Don't forget that when we are locked down this time, we will not be coming out of lockdown. No Nasara, Jasara, no humanitarian projects to fix the broken world, because third density is going, permanently and forever. To invest time, finance, or emotion into prepping for your Tier 1, 2, or 3 redemption bonds is the red nose and size 12 boots of your Circus Act belief system. Sorry I done it again, digressed as fuck. ley lines, as in the Earth's natural and innate grid, implanted by the auspices of the creators of worlds, as the energetic system for the terrarium that allows life, as opportunities for a singular soul, to naturally develop and live, experiencing physical life in an avatar physical vessel, seeing with eyes and hearing with ears, feeling with touch and smelling the scent of creation and the earth at its feet. A soul disincarnate cannot experience these sensations. That's why the Great Dome was created. Claudio Nocelli describes the Dome of Hiva, Dome of Sheol, Dome of Titans, Dome of Forgotten Gods, Dome of Portals, Dome of Silence, and the Dome of Five Peaks, as laid out like one wound expect to see on a map, as he portrays on the 178 worlds descriptions, but these separate domes are in fact all laid out on top of each other within the Great Dome Cube. Imagine a frequency box, for want of a better description, a box of distinct frequencies stacked on top like pancakes. Sentient life, i.e. sung souls, brought forth into creation as pure love and empathy, previously at the beginning several billion years ago, had to create the framework of the light worlds as they progressed down through the lower densities in light form. This took billions of years to achieve, before the perquisites for physical life could even be established. Everything was done in the highest densities primarily, always. So all construction back home is done in the higher densities and brought down as a physical blueprint in light form from the consciousness intention of one or more people with a common goal based on pure love and honest harmony, fairness, benevolence, and good vibrations. As I said above, that's the main reason the parasites hate you so much. Because you are very powerful when intact, you all manifest in the higher realms and draw creation into the reality, crystallizing, as it literally grows into being. They can't do that. They can only steal and upgrade current technology with what seems to us like supernatural tech is merely a better level of manufacturing in fourth density, nothing to write home about. In the higher densities, the light realms, which are the main realms of creation, strangely, I only found this out the other week, it's amazing, yet makes so much sense. Conscious intelligence must first evolve in light form, through the densities schematics, as learner souls. Before taking a physical vessel, they learn the law of one, love and empathy, etc., all with no physical vessel. They learn how to become harmonic anchors, fractal weavers, and masters of the universe before even stepping into a physical vessel, a fast car with no seatbelts in third density terms. The Dome of Silence and the other domes are all part of a gigantic mechanism for the soul to traverse learning the beauty of creation and how to fit in and ordain that physical beauty in new and benevolent ways, always striving towards perfection in the process of experience-based learning in the physical arena of life. In the Dome of Silence, souls learn many lessons to prepare them for the great outside. In the Dome of Silence, it's pretty quiet lull, and here there are no physical vessels whatsoever, and a soul will learn the subtle interactions of a being that will one day interact with many other sentient beings in the Great Cube, co-interacting and co-creating as one organism of many parts. Time there is also obviously non-linear, so learning isn't time-sensitive as it is here in third density, where time is drawn out, a second is made into a year here in this fake installation third density simulation, so all physical material is first created by the harmonic tonal vibration of song. The frequencies of love and empathy are literally sung into existence, taking form as the harmonic tones are sung with purpose and intention to a desired accumulation of the right frequencies, to bend sound into light, into physical matter, physical existence facilitated by the high-density ether, where you better be careful what you wish for, because manifestation is instantaneous, or at least as long as the intention is continuously added. It's a complicated concept to explain, to be honest. It's taken me days to understand it, let alone word it so that others may be able to see it in their mind's eye. I was pulling my hair out yesterday. So, was Christian, because if I don't get it, no one else will 1,000,000%, and I need to understand it to write about it, or I can't explain it, so I hope I'm not murdering it. I'm doing my best. So where was I? I used to get angry about ancient sites being vandalized by the hooligans of the past, you know what I mean? When ancient monuments were damaged in ancient times, defaced and ruined even back then, noses smashed off and eyes dug out. So powerful was my desire to understand reality. By piecing together the fragments of the past, I assumed that I could build a realistic picture of how we got here, even if only in my own mind. But the erasers of the past, in many cases, was because the people defacing these monuments and effigies, especially in Egypt and Babylon a few thousand years ago, were you, hammer and chisel in hand, roaming about smashing images of Akhenaten, defacing statues of Ninharsag, etc., because of your righteously placed anger and resentment. Don't forget, all the Egyptian era was also enslavement for the same reasons. Adrenochrome extracted from the adolescent human population as a whole, many millions of children, and adults were literally eaten and drank. Literally. It's quite repugnant, but it is what it is. It is now about informing the publics of the world, so that they may prep themselves for some traumatic revelations. Ignorance was bliss. Bliss is just about to be removed, like a warm duvet on a cold winter's night when you're camping in Siberia. The sleepers are about to be awoken with a freezing cold bucket of piss thrown in their faces. They could be at the office, the beauty salon, the zoo, theater, restaurant, cinema, market, school, racetrack, golf course, hospital, GP surgery, shopping center, library, optometrists. They could be swimming, skydiving, fishing, or barebacking, an Eastern European brass in the crap hole in a dingy bedsit on a rough housing estate in London. It matters not. They will be where they will be. NCSWIC. Nothing can stop what is coming, regardless of where anyone may or may not be. This center realm, Realm 2 usually, but since the occupation started and the fake ice wall went in and the third firmament projection dome roughly 300,000 years ago, it is now Realm 3. But let me not digress. At the very center we have the Northern Rock, or Emat Meru, and the North Pole, is actually where all these new videos are coming from, because the North Pole landmass is vast, whereas Antarctica is merely an 800-mile-wide ice ring, and 400 miles into that 800 miles, you will bump into the firmament at ground level. So the new amazing footage of these vast crystal and gold palaces and domes is all, well, mostly all, because there is some stuff on iron in the ice wall itself, just not that much. They lie and invert everything all the time. If they say, look left, you need to be looking right. If they say look down, you need to look up. Sorry, mostly all footage from the North Pole, which is what they are referring to when they mention Antarctica. The center valve for the entire Great Dome is located at Mount Meru, the toroidal force of life, and all the gateway's energy is cycling through this point at the Northern Rock/Mount Meru. Think about the Toblerone logo? Then think about Panama Pictures logo? Then think about Northern Rock Corporation. It's the same thing being shown in food and other product branding, and companies' logos. Logos. Knowledge. So knowledge contained in symbolism. The energy for the entire Gateway 10 was regulated through this essential corridor of planetary energy, regulated by the parasites controlling the physical location of Mount Meru, so that no other world in Gateway 10 could mount an attack and free then occupied worlds, because they never had the full energy that their worlds required to function. Some of the worlds on this gateway sealed themselves in, never ever having left their own worlds for fear of compromise, and having a great level of technology, they were easily able to do that. For instance, the giants, being amongst the most technologically advanced beings because of their sheer size and such a colossal high frequency emanating from them, their Lyran ancestry and age, their spirituality is extremely high, and therefore able to interface with the most powerful yet spiritual technology that is known of. For instance, the giants have several sealed domes within this Realm 3. yet they are totally undetectable to even the parasites. Don't forget that the parasites are only 4th density, whereas the people running this show are all 12th to 15th density. So it was only cosmic law that prevented a faster salvation. As I said previously a few times, outside oversight versus the sovereign accord model for the simulation's fate, any help in this will need to be homegrown Earth humans spearheaded by positive families until a point in time when social media can be used as a tool to get news to the entire population in just seconds, a non-mainstream media feed of potential, a reality that would allow the potential ascenders to grasp their new old reality and accept what has happened, where people can learn of Satanism and the red shoes, the COVID shots and what they were, what organ harvesting was actually for. I first assumed that it was for elite families who needed a new kidney or something, but no, of course not. It was for organs for them to eat. Silly me. This was able to raise the consciousness of humanity to the vibrational frequency of truth, where the awakening process could get going proper, which it has. For some of us, it feels like ages, when, for others who are clueless to any conspiracies that may have transpired, for them there is nothing to be worried about, and hopefully they will bring out a new vaccine for this variant strain of mutated cow, duck, goat, sheep, horse flu, which mutated from COVID in a bowl of bat piss soup in Taiwan. Overlays are in multi-format for the understandings of a 3rd density mindset, overlays of your perception, overlays of buildings and terrain, overlays of the sky, overlays of reality and dampening of nodal access points. These new terms are very real and tangible situations of the art of labyrinth-style obfuscation. The overlay can be a soul overlay, where, in the case of starseeds, their souls are overlaid many times into other individuals within their pod cluster/macro cluster. These are also beings of a similar density, always immediate soul family and/or cosmic friends who you have known for, in many cases, several billion years, from back home, 9th to 12th density mostly, connected to your own pod through the ARC system. These people are in your life in this loop now, and also in many loops in the past, as immediate biological family in the loop concerned, or sometimes in passing, as strangers who met at some point in times past. In many loops, you will have met the souls in these people connected to your ARC pod. That's what is being portrayed in The Wizard of Oz in the final scene of the movie. Dorothy wakes up in bed, back in Kansas. Auntie Em is there. Uncle Henry is there. Hunk is present, along with Tin Man and Scarecrow from her dream. Again, a dystopian reflection of where you live right now. A reality within a reality, or a dream within a dream, woven from your own consciousness and the food of thought. The walls of your prison are created by yourself. The cage you sit inside is a cerebral manifestation hemmed in by your own physical understanding of the world that you live in. For children, the TV and children's channels, be that online on normal TV-based channels, plus nursery interactions and social pressures, and yes, children do have pressure at this age. It's what can break them first. Commonly now it's eating disorders, self-harming, cartoons and imagery, plus LGBTQ that a child has to deal with at this age, 5 years plus. Then later in life, after schooling and the Shestui KV birth certificate bond matures at 15 years 9 months old, rent, mortgages, finance, water bills, gas, electricity bills, income tax, death tax, products, advertising, media, finance, our news, loans, education and courses, weather, and what a celebrity had for dinner last night, other people at the gym and what they do, our colleagues at work, your Nan's 100th birthday, Ascot and Newmarket races, the World Cup, Wimbledon, cricket, women's rugby, football, versions of everything and trans sports stars. I have an idea. From now on, why don't we just have the men's women's and the women's men's? So basically, trans men compete together and trans compete against each other. Is that not obvious? Because a trans woman is not a real woman by default. By adding 5 letters before the word woman, they add the word trans woman, separate from a real woman by their own admission. So what is all the fuss about? So the overlays are only possible to function because of the damped and subdued nodal points that were formerly temples. Yet now cathedrals, churches, chapels, airports, military bases, and even whole towns have been placed on top of nodal access points to reduce their positive effects, because if they did not dampen this high frequency, then people would see through the overlay now and then, as did some denizens of London in 1666. As the fire was raging, some people actually did see the higher density bleed through the technological overlay. As I said earlier, this is because a low vibration will help disguise the battle behind the overlay. It's like a cloak that can depict whatever is desired, not the same as a hologram because an overlay is similar to a programming veil. But you need the perception of the population to be bent towards your desired outcome. For instance, if they banned all vaccines tonight, as Christian pointed out yesterday afternoon, musing on the complexities of actually awakening people in the Great Awakening itself, if they banned all vaccines overnight, the next morning there would be worldwide outrage from the public from denying them their needed vaccines. They would assume the government was trying to kill them all if they banned all vaccines overnight. That's how mind-washed they are, for the most part, totally unable to think for themselves in a critical way, weighing the pros and cons of the words that fall on their ears in a way that dissects the situation as a whole. Some people are better than others at this, but all you need to do is basically be interested in your own life, your own health, and your own family. It's not much to ask. Do not believe any experts, believe in yourself and work your intuition with the gymnasium of research. It's easy these days. You don't have to sit in a library for weeks looking through text to isolate what you need. Because of social media and search engines, such as Google, you can plug right into your desired feeds, videos, and channels, millions more points of view for you to use in the judgment of the mainstream narrative pitched against what you yourself really think. It's a sobering time for many. For some, the path is clearer, and without Christian 21's information and revelations, we would not even know where the path started. The awake are a very privileged bunch of souls right now. I was saying above about the ley lines and the nodal access points. I can't remember where that was within this body of text, and this is already 24,757 words long, so I'll just explain that part here, and hope it makes sense. The power of the Earth's natural energetic system is phenomenal. You only have to think of lightning to realize the magnitude of power generated by this vast crystal network, the very veins of life of the actual planet itself. This power is, as we have been discussing for the last few months, severely dampened. It's dampened by the buildings now situated on these sacred sites, the dead buried in the ground in graveyards, the mourning and sadness that frequents cemeteries, the concrete and radar frequencies of airports that are all situated on nodes, that why cities were set up in these locations, the same with hospitals, retail parks and shopping malls, prisons and lunatic asylums, plus many more locations. Cities, from the first city, after the occupation started that is, were all placed on key nodal sites to dampen the naturally positive frequencies emanating from the ground at these focalized areas of continuous energetic power emanation. The ancient sites are then overlaid with a veiled technology so that you are not looking at what you assume. Christian and myself visited the Temple Church near Westminster in London a month or two back. It's in the square mile of London's trading centre and court system, two demonic activities. This square mile creates much misery and financial ruin. The monetary system itself is a system of enslavement. Only, you need to think about this. It has no benefit in the real world. The Temple Church is the center node for London, the most important node, so they changed the temple of Temple Church into a church called Temple Church, how ironic, and the Knights Templar. This is why they are called the Templar Knights. More mockery, they use the old temples as a facade, being now religious churches. The Knights Templar hid behind the fake innocence of the church and contributed the elite's finances stockpile by robbing everything blind. The Templar Knights operated like the CIA of their era, carrying out pirate missions and causing trouble on purpose to create wars and skirmishes, harvesting children on a regular basis, and reaping the rewards for having done so, with land and titles, immunity from prosecution, gold and riches, castles and estates. But where was I? Dampening of the nodal sites was essential because third density needs a blanket of low frequency over the whole planet for their subterfuge technology to operate unnoticed, because if there was a few nodes, or even one node that was not dampened and greatly suppressed, then the overlays would bleed through in some places, and some people with a high enough vibration would frequency match the overlay's vibration. The fake framework of their projected reality would start to visually collapse, if only in that specific location. Now, the low frequencies that third density requires to operate in the spectrums that our brain recognizes and creates images, light, and sound from, although a very limited spectrum, the positivity emanating from the nodal point, if not dampened by misery, graveyards, satanic ritual abuse, murder, rape, famine, neglect, a housing estate in poverty, a prison, an abattoir slaughterhouse, a children's home rife with abuse, all of them were, abuse causes louche, and much-needed dampening negativity, low frequency and vibration. If not dampened sufficiently, then the people living in this area near the node would live longer than the rest of the population, never get sick, and likely wake up from the slumber of enslavement. Harmonic lenses are found near water because of the reflective and light-bending properties of water, especially salt water, but any body of water, especially water naturally in motion. Water in motion is ideal for a harmonic lens to engage two or more overlays or two or more dimensions. A different dimension is merely a different simulation to the one that you are in, yet under the same firmament that you are currently under. And they do all over the place. This is why sometimes you will see credible footage of what would appear at first to be fairy-type characters or little 12-inch tall elf-looking characters. Maybe you have seen these videos? There is one or two in particular that are very interesting clips. They are situated in a forest setting near a little stream, and likely what is going on in these unusual videos. The harmonic lens would be able to allow either bleed-through visibility or direct crossover access to that simulation. We couldn't exit this simulation without a DNA upgrade, as mentioned previously many times, but higher density beings can easily step through into this dimension/simulation. It could be crossed either by accident or by desire, or maybe the right conditions allow for this to happen, or maybe this is always going on near nodal points, yet only a few high vibrational souls are in the bandwidth of frequency to perceive the event. Or, more likely, they can only been seen via the modern cameras with the fantastic technology, same as UFO pictures. Now we can photograph them even though their frequency is so high that our visual perception is too slow to catch the hertz they operate at, as Christian explains with the Final Sky event, where the projection dome is publicly removed and everyone gets to watch the sky fall like Chicken Little. Another example of future proves past. Only the highly vibrating frequencies of the ascending souls will see actual reality as it really is, unfolding. Other people's vibration at this time will be based in abject fear and terror. Their perception will cause their vision to report a different scenario unfolding. They will remain here in third density after the EMF. This is a bit harsh, but necessary for their soul to heal, for what they will exist in their current physical vessels, not their upgraded DNA-repaired vessels, but this current vessel that they are wearing right now. They will open their eyes after the light of the EMF dissipates to see a barren wasteland. To them, the current majority, it will actually look like Russia destroyed everything, because when the ascending star seeds leave here on the EMF, the ascending Terran human and ET souls will wake up in what is now Realm 2, the other side of the ice wall, but the ice wall will still remain there for a while, because the third density arena will still be there. It has to remain until the last soul has either died of hunger or decided to go for healing of its own accord. It's their choice, but 3D will remain until the last one of them expires this current density for one of those two reasons. What the simulation will be is just as it was when the Anunnaki first installed the most basic version of the simulation itself. Lots of sand, no buildings, no food, little vegetation, no animals. Because animals and children automatically ascend, there will be no children there either. So, parents reluctant to see reality will see reality the hard way. They will see it on their own without the kids with them, because the kids are all ascending regardless of their pair who rents, and the poor choices they made. Lightning is created in the nodal latticework of crystalline grids that crisscross the Earth's surface. The crystals were placed there. All realms have this system of energetic interaction. You see, these crystals serve many purposes. They hold the memories of every soul who was incepted in the realm in question. This is how our soul family are able to understand you in all of your loops, because they just interface with the crystals in your location, all acting together. These crystals form a memory bank of the realm's activity, then relay that data to the cube memory, known of here as the Akashic Records. Lightning occurs when the right atmospheric conditions are met. Moisture is necessary to be the media that the lightning visibly traverses as it leaves the ground in a nanosecond. Often invisible on its ascent, it shoots upwards, hitting the firmament, to bounce back off and come straight back down as visible electricity. Churches have a copper lightning strip that goes from the spire to the earth. This is because churches, being placed on nodes, are prime for lightning strikes because of the high energetic activity in these locations. As the paradigm of the masses flakes away like the paint on an old toilet wall, the more micro-revelations there are, the greater the snowball effect. That snowball of truth has gained a lot of momentum in the last few years. Now the vaccine-damaged voters are joining dots like never before, yet still too scared to come out as a singular person or person in opposition to the obvious scams, now actually palpable if only to the minority. We can taste it. Where's the proof? Shout the Goyim. You're inside the proof. You have to step outside to be able to see it, apparently, and that means thinking for yourself. If you can't think for yourself, then there is no proof for you. How can you gauge the value of a closed trunk, a pirate's treasure chest, let's just say? If you have a treasure chest, how do you know if there are any valuables inside if you do not look inside? If you pass off Christians' information as, nah, can't be real, I don't need to look into what the man is saying as it just can't be real, that is the same as not opening the treasure chest to gauge its worth. And you have just missed the only opportunity in your life to help yourself for the immediate future. But it's not like we didn't say. Christian 21's information is the key to the great spiritual awakening, your own personal spiritual awakening, but the majority didn't need to find Christian's info, for they were never meant to see it. We have two separate worlds in superposition at the moment. They coexist simultaneously in geographical terms, yet are polarized by mindset and understanding. Indoctrination and education blur and obscure reality in the minds of the Earth human. One of these worlds is a globe, the other is a flat plane. One is a world where the American dream can become a reality for everyone. One has a future, the other does not. One of these worlds is an utter fiction created for enslavement and the harvest of your children's adrenalized blood and organs. One of these worlds has a whole bunch of proof that the layman can use to deduce the truth. The other has only fake CGI computer patchwork photos of a fake world that never even existed. The world you live in and the world you thought you lived in are two very separate places. The veil separating them is between your ears. The veil was created by the education system and your consensus reality, implanted to blind you to the true nature of your existence, the augmentation of your reality via physical perception and emotional manipulation at every opportunity, especially seasonal times, and also in times of war, famine, discontent, etc., etc. An NPC does not have a fraction of a human soul as we assumed previously. NPCs, which number 97% of the world's population, well, their body is born as is normal, yet the little blue light in their chest is not blue, and it's not from source creation. All NPC souls are entirely synthetic in creation, a replica soul to power the vessel and record all it encounters in its life, the same as your soul, except an NPC soul is not reincarnated. It's a single-use soul to puff the numbers out and sway public opinion. It was a masterstroke by the parasites. The best possible foolery are your own people, your own family and neighbors. People you love and trust who feel the same way about you also, but their soul doesn't have the same parameters as yours. Oblivious to this fact, they mimic empathy and generate enthusiasm as desired by the parasites. Give an NPC canned laughter during a horror movie and their response is to laugh, malleable and docile, eager to obey and fight on behalf of their captors, engrossed in what their best mate told them was. On the news yesterday, their eyes and ears are exactly where they are meant to be focused, on their best mate's deepest concerns over the fake news story that was on TV yesterday. The NPC will think exactly what it's told to think, albeit subliminally, and the herd of NPCs make up the populations of the world. As we discussed previously, some whole countries are NPC. China is all NPC bar a few in the hills. The Falun Gong are all real souls, and there are many in China. But the Chinese population is so big that they are unnoticeable in percent terms. Israel is all NPC after the Nazis killed all the Jews. They replaced them with NPC Jews, the Hasidic Jews, Hasidism being a religious movement within Judaism that arose in the 18th century as a spiritual revival movement in what we know of as Poland, before spreading rapidly throughout Eastern Europe. Noticeable by their long temple ringlets and shaved head, it was only invented in the 1900s. It's not old, it's brand new. Jewish men often have distinctive curls on the sides of their heads, called peyot, also spelled peyot or peyos. These curls are a result of interpreting the Torah's prohibition against shaving the corners of the head as a requirement to let hair in that area grow long. While the Torah doesn't specify the style of the hair, many Hasidic men choose to curl their peyot. This is all utter bollocks, exactly the same as we saw with the Hashemite repression in the 1920s, where Saudi kings took the cities of Mecca and Medina, ushering in a new version of Islam, a more pious version, or in other words, a harsh and unfair Sharia law style of Islam, a repressive and sexist regime of a culture that saw women getting their lips cut off in public for wearing makeup and burqas being mandatory dress, even where there are no sandstorms. That's all a burqa is for. In the West, we have rain showers, so we have umbrellas, but in desert-swept geographical locations, sandstorms are more common than rain. So desert wear, such as the burqa, are worn. It's not meant to be worn in Tesco's on a Sunday in Oxford Street buying bog roll. But I guess no one told the poor women wearing these garments that it goes against all sensibility and rationality. Never mind their human rights, that they gave up for Allah. This Jewish story is reminiscent of the Kaisel Tata, who became the Eastern Orthodox Church. Their name was originally the Tata of Mongolia, who inhabited the northeastern Gobi Desert in the 5th century AD. It was these Tata people who founded the Mongolian Empire under their leader Genghis Khan. It was later discovered that the blood groups of these Mongolians were not actually of Mongolian descent. Only the line of Batu, the grandson of Genghis Khan, and Khan himself were of Mongolian descent, from the tribes inhabiting the Gobi all that time before. The majority of the Mongolian Empire was made up of Turks from the Ural-Altaic gene pool who lost in battle to the original Mongolians and were absorbed into their Tata culture. As you can clearly see, there is nothing overtly spiritual about Christian, or myself. We hold no humal face in repose while discussing our topics. We have no uniform or dress code of deception, a lab coat, or, if you are in the legal profession, it's a bow tie that will distinguish you from the T-boy in the waiting room of your GP surgery. We are just being who we are, doing what we do. If I tried to be and act all professional in that, it wouldn't work, it wouldn't suit me, it would look fake, it would look like I wasn't being true to myself. That's why I scratch my bollocks on camera, swear, and seem to be quite uncouth in every conceivable way, yet my internal workings are functioning at a different level, as are yours, i.e., the resonating army, or RA. That's why no one understands you, why people do not take you seriously, laugh, and try to belittle you where possible. Well, let me tell you right now that this unconcealed attempt to make you feel stupid, inferior, silly, or try to dim your light is to distract from their lack of understanding and fear of, for what is, for them, a very frightening possibility that, if true, would lead to the end of life as they recognize it. But they wouldn't have let their thought processes go that far to a conclusion so deep the veneer is, all an NPC can do, at best, is to mimic the social expectation of reply. The NPC neural net it does not compute, and refutation is the shield of defeat on the battlefield of understanding. That's why they feign a faux attempt at their perceived clarity and understanding on the topic, a topic that they are utterly clueless about, in an attempt to appear to look like someone who isn't utterly fucking stupid, and it shows. You, trying to look in somewhat way clever, doesn't work. It highlights your stupidity in a fluorescent marker pen, high-vis jacket, and stop sign. Christian 21's info is the only plausible way to make any sense of the ocean of so-called conspiracy theories. These so-called theories are of two kinds, those based on fact and put forward into the public domain for the desired in-plain sight factor, allowing them to promulgate out into the public's subconscious mind so that it may take root and develop into a fake conclusion. That way, the parasites can continue with the scam after scam, for centuries. It's always done with consent via reversed veiled reveal, as is the way. The reversal of everything from language to geography, history to physics, education to astronomy. Everything is either an outright lie or part reversed truth built out with lies. Dinosaurs as just one small example. Only the fast meat-eating dinosaurs were real. The velociraptors were real. A creation of the Draco. The velociraptor was a very fast and vicious meat-eating creature. There are a few other species, but not many, including aquatic killing machines. They were all created to destroy and basically eat anything that moved, and if you vril a velociraptor, you then have an intelligent killing machine, as shown to you in Jurassic Park, where the velociraptor is portrayed as highly intelligent, which it was, boosted by the vril knowledge. The vril are a creation of the Anunnaki, or the Draco. I forget. We met a guy at a local hotel the other week, a guest whose wife, not accompanying him on the trip, thought he was off his nut because of his conspiracy theorist attitude. This guy didn't actually know anything about any conspiracy theories himself, but his outlook was, "Babe, there could be something to this vaccine killing people." And Roswell was real, I'm sure of it. That statement got him labeled a tinfoil hat-wearing lunatic by the missus, and yet the poor bastard hasn't even started the journey towards the path to ascension. He's not even made it to the entrance of the arena of the biggest show on earth, yet, and it's unlikely that he will find the door before it's upon us. And the whole point of finding that door was to find it a year or 4 ago, to start processing the enormity of the situation, which is the reason for the psychological collapse that will dawn upon the sleepers and sheep. Like a heavy weight pressing them to the floor, they will fall to their knees. Reality is about to get very strange shortly. The projection dome is already breaking down and glitching. I've seen several videos lately of the sky seeming to pixelate like a damaged TV screen if you were to hit it with a hammer while it's switched on. Also, the sun glitching out. Don't forget that not everyone will see the same sun. It's one sun situated in Realm 2, outside our fake firmament. But they use advanced technology to mirror the sun in physicality, duplicating it with all its attributes. Yet that is not all. They then split this planet up into 4 simulations with 7 continents and 109 countries. They then subdivide these 109 countries into 109 simulations, 1 for each country. They then overlay the historical buildings that were previously crystalline palaces in Realm 2 before the ice wall went up and split Realm 2 into a 3rd realm. So not everyone with daylight will be looking at the same sun. Also, When you see these videos of a palm tree floating in the air, or a bird seemingly paused in flight, or an airplane on pause, yet with the engine still audible, this is when the white hats are letting you see reality with your own eyes. If the parasites were still here, that would not happen. No chance. This phenomena is caused by the simulation's perimeters at the edges for roughly 100 or so meters. The simulations/overlays overlap, causing a plane in flight to seem paused when you can still hear the engine. This is because the simulation overlap has been purposely delayed slightly and allowed to line up momentarily. You see, the simulations run like clockwork, just like a Swiss watch, very high-tech clockwork. When you interfere with the cycle, the misalignment causes visual anomalies. When this happens, the plane will still be in flight with people on it, but the simulation overlap will freeze your current simulation's visual of this item in motion in the air. You can still hear the plane, because it is still traveling at the same speed and height as when you saw it on its trajectory. But only the people in the simulation that it butts up to will be able to see and hear the plane in motion. Sometimes they will see the same as you see. Yet usually it will only look strange from one simulation. That simulation could be the other side of the road to you, or it may even fall in the same dwelling as you. Remember the Bernstein's video with the guy with the Bernstein's book, that the name on it changes as he walks into the other room. The camera does not leave the book's cover, and the name changes on camera. People say this is fake, yet the same with the car in the car park outside someone's condo in America, the person in the house filming the car park, and as they walk back and forth from the two rooms, the car seems to disappear and reappear as they trace their steps backwards and go back to the other bedroom window to look at the car outside. Both these instances are because there is a simulation or overlay overlap in this. It's not something that people may see. The last letter on a book cover changing as you cross the threshold to another room is not necessarily something that would even be noticed, like the videos of water within water that you may have seen. Scuba videos of rivers within rivers where the water acts like separate water with its own unique properties, yet is merely simulation overlap. Technically, these are locations where dimensions bleed in together. It's been made to happen to show you, to get your mind working. The case with water within water, this is an overlay that is hiding something. Previously, I wrote that this was an inner Earth simulation overlapping a third density environment, but that was wrong. The video underwater where water is seen interacting with water, yet in a way that would appear that the two types of water do not in any way blend together as a singular body of water, rather they interact as if not contained in water. This is an overlay that is hiding an underwater base, or likely something that the parasites do not want your eyes looking at. Overlays can be in the air, land, or under the sea. They can be placed on people and animals, yet it is all technology. Without social media, we would not be able to evidence these anomalies. Without social media, the Great Awakening would not be happening. Because of the simulation lock into a free will matrix, awakening was not an option due to the parasitic manipulation of the governing parameters of a free will matrix such as Gateway 10 is. Social media has been able to bring the four corners of the flat plane much closer together, allowing everyone the opportunity to get themselves online no matter what country they are in. They can be connected, often as if in the same room, with no data lag, sometimes LOL, but without social media. Although it was created to help shoehorn the planet into a 15-minute city FEMA camp lifestyle, don't forget that to be aware, you have to be asking questions, even if only internally, posing them to one's self silently. But you cannot become aware of this without determined research, made quite easy with a set of free information from Christian 21 and my humble self. On the Soul Fam shows, hosted by Kirsten and Gary on Christian 21 channel on Telegram, t.me/loveandlight16, the people on the show, up to 100 per show, are located all over the world, in almost every country. We have people resonating in Peru, USA, UK, Spain, South America, Germany, Canada, Thailand, Philippines, Greece, and who knows where else. These resonating souls all form a grid, an awakened grid of positive energy and a common understanding of the reality of nature and the world we inhabit. These people are selfless and determined warriors, fighting their own battles in their own way, all with a common goal: the awakening of our species from a deep, deep slumber lasting many thousands of years. When you get a budgie, a cockatiel, or a parakeet, you add things to the birdcage to give the bird something to look at and peck: a mirror or two, some bells, a string with birdseed glued to it, a ladder, and some trinkets. Now think, when you go to the supermarket, you are immersed into a retail environment. Posters and advertising give your mind something to desire, to make life a little nicer, such as that holiday you booked 5 years ago to the Algarve or Spain. The brochure looked like a dream come true for you, the missus and kids, but when you got there, the hotel was opposite and adjacent to several building sites that started at 8 a.m. It was messy. The area was nothing like the brochure displayed. The hotel wasn't even anywhere near the beach. The all-inclusive was all-inclusive, but your happiness is ordained by your perceived perception, nothing else. DIY stores, holidays, cars, fishing, game shows, knitting, cycling, skydiving, sailing, skiing, abseiling, chess, reading, history, chemistry, mathematics, languages, Play-Doh, jigsaws, art, space, astronomy, cooking, plus everything else here in third density, are the trinkets of distraction in your budgerigar cage. Your brain is larger than a budgerigar's cerebral cortex, so your brain needs more effort put into the furnishings of your caged mind. They need you to believe that failure is mostly a common theme in the lives of most. They need you doing everything that you are still doing: paying bills, working, paying taxes, paying more tax every time you buy something, no matter how small, mortgages and business rent. Why not start smoking vapes? Must be good for you. They need you ill, on meds, on benefits, or in jail. Welcome to the Great Awakening. At last you get to look back as you exit dystopia, spitting on the floor of a fake simulation as you climb the steps of the Truman Show's final few minutes. Truman, or Truman, represented all of society, encapsulated by a vulgar child killer named Jim Carrey, executed in 2017. So some people will be well happy with it and some will not. It's about managing expectations. The expecting expect. They expect their desires to be palpable. They expect that the world leaders have their communal backs. They expect that there will be trouble in the future: war, famine, strife, viruses, droughts, pestilence and plague, terrorism, etc. They expect upcoming measures to address each situation in turn. The narrative dictates public emotion plus consensus reality, and the story unfolds in the minds of the sheep. The end result is exactly as anticipated: conformity via the trauma of the expected anticipation of the narrative's predetermined story. David Icke, the child-killing Freemasonic scumbag, coined the phrase problem, reaction, solution. The cabal, deep state, whatever you wish to call them, told you in your face, written by Icke in about 30 books, and broadcast internationally, but broken down for children to understand. You live in a simulation. You are incarnated here in a physical vessel, as food, no other reason, apart from sex, and they preferred children for both. Reptilians and several malevolent species owned this planet for a very long time, harvesting your population every 1,000 or so years on a repetitive cycle. These eras are called resets. Very few people survived a reset, only a handful. You will know of this veiled situation as the rise and fall of civilizations. It's all bullshit. Civilizations do not rise and fall. They rise and ascend unless there is parasitic intervention involved. When a reset happens, the population is culled, the new population, children under the age of 3. At the start of the culling, or reset, are given a new narrative, as emerging toddlers to ascend to the surface and go to school, where they are taught. A deceitful lie to explain away the fact that there are not many adults bimbling about, yet many thousands of children needing adopting. Cabbage Patch Kids and orphan trains, etc. Dr. Bernardo's and that, the lunatic asylums, were for the grown-ups left catatonic with shock, having been just normal people very recently prior to their apparent catatonia. Easy to understand if you give it thought. Just think. All it takes is sustained thought on the subject. People are going to be very, very upset, very, very angry, very, very sick, very, very frightened, and very, very deranged when they learn that which Christian 21 brought to the table 4+ years ago. They will loose their minds, literally. They didn't need to loose their minds, but the fountain of reality spouting out of the mouth of a man with no formal education who doesn't fit the consensus realities mold for a person to be listened to, failed their first impressions test to their own detriment. When you get to the summit and look back down the mountain, you can see the lay of the land in good detail. You can see beyond the view of the masses, over hills and past dales. The sheep can only see what's going on at eye level, but the script lays out complexities that only the strong-stomached can tackle. But if you can come at this information with a non-judgmental approach and a realization that we might not have been told the entire truth on a bunch of stuff, or that we have been lied to about everything, it's not a mystery any longer. It's not ambiguous either. It's easy to see what's happened and how to accept it and move on, which was the complete point of looking into Christian 21's information and revelations in the first place. Strange it's gone a bit quiet on the QFS side. We haven't heard all that much lately, apart from serious people admitting that it was a scam, just like Christian said 3+ years ago. Your consciousness is stored in a remote location. If you are a starseed, that is, linked via the consciousness pod on the ark of your soul family's care, this, as we have found out today, is how life is carried out back home. Oddly, the simulation's augmentation of reality requires you to have your consciousness inside a containment pod. You can then, via what we call here Avatar technology, as shown to you in films by the same name. Avatar, by the way, the film The Last Airbender, was to be called Avatar, but the producers of Avatar made the producers of The Last Airbender change its name to the latter, interestingly, considering both films are showing different aspects to the same theme, and in 4 completely different formats: cartoon, film, and CGI, and printed book. But I digressed. The consciousness pod will allow you to plug into any simulation. It's like a posh version of the latest Xbox console, or console. You can then access the entire system of worlds if you are at the right frequency to enter that world. It's all technology. Nothing is natural, except the soul itself being a creation of your soul family of light beings. Because, as we have said previously, it was a bit round the wrong way. How I explained it has now matured with the age of understanding into thus. The source of all creation created itself out of the necessity of the natural desire to flourish and create, to be alive and to experience physical life in a physical vessel, to experience the wind blowing through one's hair, the cold sensation of a waterfall as it hits your skin. Electromagnetic forces coalesced, and still do, in ancient times several billion years ago, plus in the dark matter field that is the universe itself. The sentient light of the thought form to desire experience-based learning, firstly in light form, ignited in an indigo spark in the dark matter field, with only the understanding that it was alive and sentient. Luckily, this force was the most benevolent force ever in existence, and the first and last of its kind, a unique situation. All souls here in Gateway 10 and beyond have traversed the density of fairness, oneness, and unity long before even taking a physical vessel. It's like doing your driving theory test before you get in a vehicle and go out for a spin in your new vessel. This is where the notion of as above, so below, adopted by the Anunnaki Egyptians as a piss take from a few thousand years ago, they used it to refer to the Orion correlation theory presented by the 33rd degree Freemason and author Robert Bauval, where the 3 stars of Al-Nitak, Al-Nizam, and Mintaka align perfectly with the 3 pyramids on the Gizeh Plateau, or Chufu, Khafra, and Menkaure, or also known of as Cheops, Kefren, and Michenero's physical life. In this sector of the universe, doesn't begin at Gateway 10, it begins in 15th density, in the light realms. The light realms were here way before physicality existed, you see. It is in the light realms that all life starts. We don't end up in the light realms after traversing the lower densities through a process of evolution. As assumed, we start off in the light realms as pure thought, sung into existence by our soul mother and father. We exist as a self-aware and highly vibrating self-sustaining frequencies, a USB drive in light form, for want of a better description. In the Nos Confunden book series, Claudio Nocelli describes the other domes of Hiva, Sheol, Titans, Silence, Terra Incognito, Dome of Portals, as being separate lands with separate domes shielding their inhabitants. But as Christian explains, it's not as straightforward as that. These vast worlds that house all the individual realms and planets within their cube framework are all situated on top of each other. They are not separate great domes. Well, they are separate, but not in the context of third density separation, where Claudio portrays, for instance, the Dome of Portals and the Dome of Titans as separate worlds only reachable via portals. These great domes are also all situated right where we are. These are not separate in a situation requiring distance travel. They are literally just higher frequency realms overlaid very close to this frequency band. Just like tuning into a radio, you turn the dial to cycle through the radio frequencies until you find the station you need. These days, you just type in the frequency required for listening to your desired station. It's the same with density levels and physical life. You must already be at the minimum frequency required to access these other worlds, should you wish to go there. But they are separated from you only by sound, not parsecs, light years, miles, or kilometers. But vibration and frequency separate the layers of existence from density to density. And not only are all the other 5 domes, Hiva, Sheol, Titans, Portals, and the Dome of Silence, not situated at distance apart from each other, but superimposed, as it were, in higher frequency bands, but not only that, also, each country in this realm is also superimposed on top of each other, making transport a nonlinear issue. Instead, travel in a straight line is not exactly in a straight line, as Euclid first postulated. Rather, a straight line in third density parlance is a multidimensional issue not understood in this third density arena, where physical life is extruded from the multiplicity of creational influence. The Great Dome is the lowest frequency, being third density, which was never meant to even have happened. It's a fake creation of the controlling parasites who occupied this once beautiful world until quite recently, yet here we are at the bottom of the spectrum for physical life to exist within. Now understand the Dome of Forgotten Gods. In third density parlance, this name is applied to this high-frequency domed simulation that sits above all else. This density is where the ancient souls in 12th to 15th density reside when at home chillin' out, and not incarnated into a satanic abattoir planet like this one. So the highest frequency worlds are in the Dome of Forgotten Gods. Now imagine Mount Meru, or the Northern Rock, situated in what is being referred to as the North Pole, which is in fact where all these alien-looking buildings and statues are being discovered as the overlays fracture. It's not ice melting or excavation causing these appearances. It's the parasitic overlays fracturing during the Great Awakening process itself. As lights come on in people's consciousnesses, the overlays fracture and fissure. They were not buried in snow and ice. They were overlaid with technological illusion. Think about it. These holes in the ice and ground at many different locations, some in Egypt, which is hot, not icy. These locations were hidden from view via the implementation of technology, not weather. They were covered in an overlay, hidden with pixels that you can touch and feel, a physical barrier that is yet a technological overlay to hide reality from you, as usual. So, in these new old locations being seen online, this is not AI, fuck's sake, this isn't AI, this is a reality stolen from you many lifetimes ago, obscured from vision and contemporary debate by a series of prolific child killers collectively known of as historians and scholars, sometimes as merely prominent academics. This leads into the Illuminate, Freemasons at 33rd degree and above, etc., etc. Old news now for the awake, yet still not even a concept for the sleepers and sheep. The overlays are already fracturing, the sky is already glitching out, hidden for the most part by a covering of intended cloud to hide the collapse as it progresses. It is going on daily all over the world. Don't forget that there are 109 simulations here, possibly a few more. So each country's sun is not the same sun that everyone assumes that they are looking at in daylight hours. It's far more complicated than that, because the countries are situated on top of Akother, within the light realm framework of reality. Don't forget that all matter is first created in the highest densities. Harmonics and tone are brought forth with determined intention, through love and empathy, and the higher densities are tightly implicated in this density's exemplification. So in a minute there will be much to awe about in the sky. LOL. At the North Pole, think about it, the North Pole is not just the center of this world, it's the center of the entire Gateway 10. Now understand that Gateway 10 is the bottom arena of physical life, the center stage for physical life to experience everything in the semi-ridged framework of physicality. So the higher densities immediately above you are feeding off your current density. It's like an etheric machine, a machine in light form, processing intention, desire, and creation directly from the thought stage through manifestation into lower density physical worlds as perceptible multidimensional technology, buildings, craft. Everything is created this way. There are no factories back home, no raw materials in the sense that you understand it here. Before physical existence, the cube was here, created via harmonic tone as is all else, but there was no physical matter, land, or vegetation. The cube contained a multi-spectrum band of billions of structured frequencies, only contained within the cube itself. Just like a radio set, we moved about up and down the spectrum of frequencies without physicality, as light beings contained within the safe environment of the cube that we had manufactured via determination, curiosity, and a strong desire to carry life forward into the next stage, being physicality, as opposed to a soul with no physical vessel. After a few billion years, the thought processes linked with the natural desire to answer all questions and become masters of reality, a true initiate of source creation, creating the very containment for all life to exist. Inside, remotely on behalf of the fulfillment of perfection, for all life to experience and carry forward. As the sky event starts, the only craft, UFOs in the sky, will be Earth-made SSP Space Force, created by Earth people. So the only UFOs seen by the population when the FAI, fake alien invasion, starts will be Earth-created UFOs and a lot of Project Bluebeam holographic negative ET craft. The good guys will look like your average good guys. Their color and apparent actions will be overtly good in appearance and action, destroying the bad guys who, as I just said, are entirely holographic craft and contain no physical bad guys. Remember, it's all just a show. The brighter-looking craft, blue pulsating colors, will look like they are the good guys compared to the negative ET craft/holograms. These will look negative, maybe red lights or all a similar type of craft. People will see that there are clearly two sides in this apparent sky battle. The Earth-based SSP craft will be victorious in seeming to defeat the negative-looking craft. This will make people understand that they were saved by positive ET who came to help them, which will provoke in many billions of people. Where was God then? Why didn't Allah come and save us? Why didn't any gods come and save them? You can see how this works. They give you dots to join up. Some get it early, some catch on a bit late, and some have to find out the hard way. It is what it is, but be that as it may, The sky event ends with the EMF, or electromagnetic flash, or sometimes called an electromagnetic frequency. This is a high-density technology that restores the realm back to its prior state and designation of Realm 2, which is what it was prior to the ice wall and fake projection dome going in. This happened approximately 300,000-ish years ago. So, sorry before I digress again. The EMF itself is a series of 3 flashes, or frequencies. These flashes do 3 different things, as discussed previously, but there is an addition in information with the 3rd flash. The 3rd flash is for the resonating and ascending souls. It's that flash that opens the portal above each person. This portal will take them to their original location, assuming they are at the right frequencies when this happens, before they either got taken by the parasites from wherever location, or if they volunteered, as discussed previously. If you are a starseed, you will wake up and open your eyes in a stasis chamber on your home world. In a vertical stasis chamber, standing up, your vessel has been on pause for quite a long time, held in stasis in harmonic tones. Decay does not occur at these frequencies. It's the same as pressing pause on a computer game. In reality, that is the best explanation available. Likely you are on a bioship, a sentient and living craft, hewn from the harmonic field in tonal frequencies. Its schematics preordained at the higher densities where manifestation is not only instantaneous, but highly complex and interdimensional in origin. Light frequency architecture oscillates at incredible high frequencies. This means that it exists in many different densities simultaneously, the same as quartz crystal. Quartz is also operating in multi-densities due to its ultra-high oscillatory waveform. I think all crystals do this. Just as Clark Kent, Superman, is sickened by kryptonite, so the parasites were sicked by suck-positive crystal palaces, and the permanent manifestation of solid physical form in a fluctuating and energetic light field in 3rd density. This light field is distorted with the perception of the viewer and that person's own unique herd-driven understanding of through the lens of the consensus reality of the peer group, village, town, city, or country of the viewer in question. It's all an illusion. Everything you look at and smell, taste, touch, it's all an illusion placed there by the unvirtue of your captors, the demons who planned this enslavement. They were way more clever than you, way, way more, having not been mind-wiped, ever. They were the second most knowledge beings in the entire universe, second only to the source of creation itself. Listen, what I have personally learned in the last 7 years has shaken me to my core, on many occasions, at the beginning. Now, it's water off a duck's back. I'm actually expecting it these days. There are no shockers in store for me. But I have had 7+ years to wrap my head around this absurdity, 4 years in true reality. I have seen the evidence with my own optical apertures. I have smelt the scent of illusion with my own olfactory senses. I have touched the membrane of reality with my own cerebral fingertips. So do not tell me that I am off my head when you haven't a clue what you are talking about, having not looked into a single thing, and running cabal script from an NPC/NPC stained and heavily overlaid vessel hooked into a fake reality known of as the Matrix. A conclusion cannot be formed in degenerate Luciferian code, aka consensus reality. Answers lay out of reach at all possible junctions. U-turns and blind access haunts every burrow in the rabbit hole of illusion. We have illusion built upon illusion, lie on upon lie, until absurdity prevails, and the minds of men break down into chaos and depression. Depression, if not acknowledged, still experienced, worn with a tough facade and outer projection, overlaid with the uncertainty of a negative simulation. Desolation and cynicism prevail the hearts of mankind, in a fake reality ordained by your expectation of the expected, in whatever paradigm you choose. In whatever epoch of choice, the expectations of the expecting will produce the expected results. If only on a societal level, that is still the way our paradigms have unfolded here in 3rd density. We have been given the fruit of expectation, and we expect it, eagerly, some more than others. Yet it's been a part of our collective lives for longer than anyone can possibly remember. So stepping outside of these restraints is a lot harder than one assumed. With 100 people in a room, 97 of them are NPCs. That's what you are up against. You are whispering in a vacuum of non-player characters. Your voice is not heard, yet your vibration speaks louder than words. Every time you think about reality, you are helping to fracture the parasitic overlays. Every reshare, every conversation, every thought, every move towards freedom, a freedom now expected by the newly expecting, the awakened souls who stood out when it mattered most. Be a tall poppy in a field of low-life parasitic yes men, it's now only sub-minion level ants who are left holding the doors of this illusion ajar. Without these simulation furniture add-in people completing daily administrative tasks, the illusion would fall apart. Proper. Forever. Phase 1. The escalation. Narrative. They will position Russia, Iran, North Korea, and China as the villains, UK, USA, Israel, and NATO as the heroes. In reality, all sides are controlled by the GAA/White Hat military. False flag events will transpire to physically charge the public's emotion. To Phase 2, a physical jolt, with a palpable WW3 scenario and cyber attacks. Each country will think that the other countries are attacking them. They want public uncertainty. No internet at this time, no news media, only the emergency broadcast channel. The population will be indoors at home just as before, except this time there will be a whole lot of foreign military parked up outside ready to contain the violence when people realize what was done to them and by whom, and that these disgusting reptiles owned this entire planet for about 300,000 Earth years. Well, it's going to upset people quite a lot. After the EMF event, the majority of people left on the surface of Realm 3 here will be in complete shock, having assumed that they just died in a nuke sent by Russia or North Korea or whoever. They will still be in their current vessel. They will not be upgraded yet until they accept reality. This is a bit harsh, but it's necessary for the healing process. They must realize and accept by themselves what has happened to them. Many will not want to do this. They will not want to face the fact that they were highly educated, in lies. Only that God was a child-killing Anunnaki extraterrestrial, and that at least the last 10,000 years have been a satanic illusion. It's not going to go down well with them, especially the educated academics, the university postgraduates who have paper proof of their intellect. Anyway, sorry, where was I? This realm here after the actual EMF will be quite similar to a building site, a lot of sand and rubble, no wildlife, because all animals that are not NPC, pigeons, sheep, cows, chickens, and herd animals are all non-player characters, will have ascended and evolved. The NPC human replicas will have disappeared, so the ones left here on Earth will only be original Terran human, or ET souls, still stuck in their current third density vessel, all scratching their heads wondering what's actually happened? There will only be desolation surrounding them. They will assume that Russia or North Korea, etc. had nuked us, and to start with they will think they are the lucky one. They will understand and see many millions get raptured and disappear, yet the ones left behind will be temporarily grateful that they didn't die with everyone else, for a short time, because there will be no shops, no food, no wildlife, not much going on whatsoever, no trees or plants. However, their gratitude at remaining alive will be short-lived as they will starve. Many will kill themselves at the desolation and lack of prospects. The remaining children will probably be the decider, as not all children will leave their parents. Some will choose to remain. They will be the catalyst to wake the parent/S up. All the time their soul family will be on a different frequency band, watching and waiting to help, but these souls must realize on their own. Then, after the last soul has healed, the simulation will phase out, and this realm will return to its former glory and status of Realm 2. Big love, people. I had to cut this short as it was getting long. XX. Leon Trenta.